Granby up the Leberg, 4.2, but maxing at 13.8 and going on for almost a kilometre.
Yes, and the section we're on at the moment, of course, is the cobble section of Paddestrad, which is quite a long one, and yeah, I think that, as you see, another crash here.
Oh, that was hard. That was really hard. Into the gutter and kicked out, and still not unclipped. Somebody at the side of the road just helping out and helping up. I think he wants to stay exactly where he is at the moment, and other riders just avoiding him. Just don't pull any arms at that moment. There we are. Oh my goodness. Well, down the centre of the rain gutter, it may well be smooth, but as you can see, there is also a line of rocks, and basically it's like a little bowl, and you can get spat at one side. And it's one of our Trek riders who's on the deck as we speak, and we're just dipping down, trying to get an ID on it, not wanting to double guess, but this looks serious. Up. And it is Popovic, I believe, who's... I think it's Popovic. Let's have a look. Oh, that hurt, Sean. That really did hurt.
Yes, well, number 4, we're hearing Popovic, yes, and... you know, we could see he was just, you know, pushing up there. The other rider just moved in a fraction, and he touched his handlebar off the other rider, and down very, very heavily.
He's like in a half pipe there as well. It's all very well riding the gutter, but you can get caught out. And he got up one side of it and then spat up the other side, got airborne, and down he went. It was elbow that went into the deck, and that's the frightening thing. He's still not standing up, and well, you can just guess as to how much pain he is in at the moment. 106.3 to go, still over 3.5 minutes. All this action, Sean, has played into the hands of the breakaway group, and Taylor Finney's just still swinging like a metronome out front.
Well, I think the breakaway is doing a really good job here. They're working well together. I think the shots we've got on our screen here, they seem to be, you know, pushing along quite well, but you know, going back to Popovic there, he was pushing a bit too much, because you know, he was coming up at a very tight, it was very, very tight, and you could see the rider was just to his left. He should have just, you know, knocked the pace off a little bit, but you know, these riders are so nervous out there, taking huge risk.
Risk indeed. We'll keep an eye. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Quick man, Bozic is rocking and rolling all over the road, as you can see, just waiting for his team's car to come up, trying to put us, maintain as much distance as he can. A lot of effort involved in that sort of thing when you're running a flat, and he's waiting for help, as you can see. Nick Lampard, 25. We weren't saying inches, it was mil. We're talking the width of the tyres to cope with the gaps in the cobbles. 27 for Paris-Roubaix. That's mostly on the flat. This very much the opposite. It's about climbs today, and picking their way and threading a beautiful route through like a golden thread on this tapestry. It's, oh, and you can see when the cars back up as well. It's like a traffic jam back there. There's not a lot of space for the cars to get through either, and when they get called up, well, it does sound like a traffic jam as well. You hear the horns being hit as teams start to panic that they can't help their rider, and especially when on the narrower sections, it's an absolute nightmare. You're looking at a group of about, what, 50, 55 riders, that kind of thing. Quality it is. Sagan is here. And Nicky Terpstra is looking comfortable. Saw a lovely little conversation a few moments ago between Geraint Thomas and Edvald Boasson-Hagen, who were discussing tactics, clearly. And I posed the question to Sean, how far is too far? Because he said 76 kilometres, just like Merckx did. Nobody would be that mad again, surely. Sean, when are we going to see the first real attempts at going for it from distance?
Well, that's a difficult one, because as a rider, you just never know when somebody else is going to take it up, another team. The director of sportives as well. We did hear Wilfred Peters a moment ago, be careful after the climb of the was it the Ekenberg, I think, and he was saying be careful for the counter-attack, and you know, that's where you have to just be always to the fore end of the peloton, and in case some of the other teams take it up, go in the attack with their favourites, and then you find yourself having to chase that down. And it's all about how many riders you have in the leading group. And of course we see Omega Pharma Quickstep with Tom Bonan's team, they have, you know, 7 riders there up front of the peloton. That's a great position to be in for a team and for Bonan. When he looks around and he sees all those teammates, you know, the confidence he gets from that, you know, you say, if I want to correct the situation, they will do it if I have a mechanical problem.
And the
There we are. He's telling them in that group of 70, for goodness sake, look after De Volder. He's in the pursuit group, who's down here, that got hampered. De Volder actually made his way back on with these guys who were caught in that little crash. De Volder, though, has done a great job. You'll see the Belgian champions jersey. It's the dead centre of your screen right now, and they want help for him.
Yes, and we could hear Dirk de Mol there saying, you know, nie panikeren, don't panic, and wait for the next important moment. And that means, of course, you know, just keep your eye open, stay close to the front, and watch what's happening in the front end of the peloton. And as you mentioned, Stein de Volder making a good recovery here, getting back in, because, you know, he lost quite a bit of time there with that crash.
So there we are. Those that got through, those that stepped over had come together a little bit earlier. Those that were held up by the crash are in this long train trying to make its way back on. Stein de Volder had his own incident, as you saw. Well, there's a little bit of a chit-chat going on as well there. What on earth are you doing? He said, I'm slowing down for my mate. Get on with it. I'm not sure who that was from Movistar who was hurling abuse, but may well apologise tonight when they share a vol au vent around the table. Who knows? Be alert or be a loser, I guess, is the catchphrase of the day, Sean. There will be some breaks. There will be some attempts. You better be on it.
Yes, well, you know, as we see there, you just never know. Because of the terrain here, you can have a crash at any moment, and you can have it very close to the front of the bunch, which we see the one where, you know, De Volder was in, and then you have to make this effort to get back. And I think De Volder is being maybe a little bit lucky, because there's so many riders back there, and a lot of teams wanting to, you know, chase this one back. We see Cancellara there also coming back just in front of De Volder. We see the Sky, Geraint Thomas is there, so a lot of riders. There's another crash.
Oh, out of the break, is it? Oh, it's Tony Galopin. It is at the moment. Oh my goodness, there we are. Tony indeed, and at least he's not second-hand if the bike is.
Yes, we can see there, and it looks like that he was maybe riding on the footpath, and then we see the concrete in the between the cycle path and the road, and you just, you know, get taken by surprise and touch it, and down you go. But he hasn't any injury, which is an important thing. But that is Belgium. You know, there's so much technical stuff here, so much furniture. You have to, you know, be a great bike handler first of all, but also, you know, you can still get cut out, as we can see here.
Very much so, and he's a pretty handy bike. Oh, it's that centre elevated section, which I think was probably a bus stop. It is. In fact, there are these sort of lingering, gum-chewing 14-year-olds who were hanging around saying this is our bus stop. Well, he claimed a piece of it today. 101.8 kilometres to go, still 3.5 minutes. That's been lock solid, and I think they're having to wait for some of those who've been caught out, mainly because the engine that isn't driving it all on, everybody else other than Omega Pharma Quickstep. Somebody earlier saying this looks like an Omega Pharma Quickstep time trial out there. I know your feelings. Yeah, they have been dominant so far. Are they leaving too much behind? Well, I guess we will find out. Nice place, Sean. We need to go round to Mr. Rob Horst later on.
Very nice.
Yes, lovely part of the world. Clearly shrouded as well by heavy trees, so that nobody can get a look-see unless you happen to have a helicopter, so we get a good view of it. 101.3 to go, and if this is a proper mobbing of the road right now. I think a brief hiatus for some of these guys, or at least that's what they're hoping for. Those who were in the front will want to just go for it, I imagine. There's a danger that somebody might just kick out of this.
Well, that's something you just never know when some team will try and take it up, and I think there'll be a little bit of a downtime at the moment, because in that the front of the bunch with 50 riders, we could see the Omega Farmers pushed it on for a while, and that works in a number of ways. You stay out of trouble. You also make it a little bit difficult for the riders to get back in after the crash, or the riders who are caught behind the crash. As we can see, there's a huge group of riders that are coming back in here now with the Volder, which Posato we see getting back. Geraint Thomas was also there from Sky, and this group is growing quite big, and the pace is being knocked off. But again, Omega Pharma Quick Step, I don't think they have, done too much. They've been riding on the front a bit with, maybe two of their riders, but the effort they had to put in there, it hasn't been anything great, but they have put the other riders and the other teams under a little bit of difficulty, and that's what you've got to do, and they can pay for that effort a bit later on.
Nick Dart at the front of this little trio of Lotto Belisol riders in their red, like their livery, by the way, of their jerseys this year. Much better than the golden shoulders of last year. Been suffering a bit, of course, not least because of Andre Greipel and his detached collarbone. Oh, and hello. We have, it looks like just a teammate-to-teammate swap at the moment of the front wheel. And Francis de Jure still desperately trying to keep, I think, Alfredo in the frame here. There we are. Yet more furniture for them to deal with. And clearly just a puncture. And handing over was Boucher. There we are. Well, if you haven't got your team car close by, you better have a teammate.
Yes, and that's something I think we've seen there. We see one of the Astana riders some time ago. He was just riding on a flat for quite a long time at a very, very fast pace, and we could see the rear end of the bike was sliding quite a lot. And they're aware that there's still groups trying to get back in here, as we can see. And another rider down here.
It is, and on the deck, I'm afraid it's Gabby Rash, who's picked up a bit of road after his namesake, I'm afraid. And it rolls on, and the punctures keep coming. Zatovic with another puncture. Mostly rears, it seems, today, Sean, bizarrely. I guess that's where most of the weight is.
Well, yeah, we've seen quite a lot of rear wheel changes there, but the Francis de Jure, Alfredo, he was changing a front wheel, and we see Rash here, just looking at his wounds and, taking a bit of time to get back on the bike. We also see a Katusha rider there with a broken chain, so it's just all happening out here. There's just crashes continuously and flats just all the time coming here in the last, 40-50 kilometres.
Stein de Volder did a great job of avoiding Rash on the road there. Lovely bit of bike handling skills. The Hagerhoek, 2 kilometres in length, and guess what? Yeah, we're climbing once again with 99.1 kilometres to go. There's a series of punches here and punctures, as we've already seen. The Leiberg is also part of our fun today. Now, don't forget, we are this is like a pavé section, actually. It's not a it's the Hagenhoek. It's pavé section, road section number 5. Just sort of wanders a little bit up and down, still leading into another climb that we have to take on. We've done the Leiberg, the Valkenberg, the Kapperreich, and then the Canna Reichberg before the Ode Quermont all over again. It's a couple of loops today, so we have a longer one and then a shorter one, and then of course the finish. Most notably, the last 51 kilometers today are where the real punishment happens. You have the Koppenberg, the Steenberg Dries, we have the Tyenberg, the Kreuzberg, the Ode Quermont, and the Paterberg. It's amazing. I don't know how anyone copes with it, frankly, and it's a joy for us to watch, but it's absolute hell for these guys who are riding it. Nasty and nice in equal measure, depending on what side of this television screen you are, I guess. 98.4 to go. 3 minutes and 12 the gap now. Welcome back. The break is thinning down. We've got some intermediate riders who've had their troubles. We are down to 7 now. It was 11. Apollino was the first to go for AG Tour La Mondiale earlier on today. And you can see that Europcar, haven't seen much of those today. Also just trying to join the fun. They have Jerome Cousin as their principal, but Tony Aurel, Vincent Jerome can also go well. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be one of the major features today. But then again, who knows who will be, especially when you see the luck that Stein de Volder. I wonder whether Stein de Volder's got all his bad luck out of the way. Adrenaline is an amazing thing, Sean. You can come back from adversity, provided you have that adversity reasonably early on.
Yes, you certainly can. And I think, de Volder, looking on his form of recent, he is going to be, still there in the final. The effort he had to make to get back in, he possibly will pay a bit for that, but he's made it back. And you say to yourself, well, when you come down in a crash like that, and they were going at a very fast pace at the time, and you come out with maybe just a little bit of road rash, you say, well, that's the risk you take in this race, and that's always going to be there. But you can say to yourself, well, it was lucky, really. And if you get back in without having to make too much an effort, you say, well, I'm still, and hopefully I'm still in here, and I hope this is the end of my bad luck for the day.
Yeah, the worst luck, of course, will come late. It's all very well saying everyone has the same amount of bad luck, but the timing of it is absolutely crucial. Yes, no matter what your yin and yang philosophy is on life. And Paulini is riding on with a puncture here, just waiting for his team car to come up. Nicholas Rackley has been in touch on Twitter. Don't forget, you can send us your thoughts at Carlton Kirby on Twitter. And if you hashtag Eurosport Cycling, then we will have those messages absolutely everywhere. About to make a big turn. There was a lunatic on the inside who nearly took out one of the breakaway riders a few moments ago. He got rather excited, and a security guard went and told him off in no uncertain terms, which was good. I think he took his chips off him. There we go. Around they come. A little bit of an offer as well from a soigneur of a water bottle, none taken. Nick Rackley saying, can you ask Sean Kelly what his best time at the Claremont was? I understand Nicky Terpstra did it in 5 minutes.
Well, of course, now with Strava, you can do that. Back in the time when I was racing, I didn't have that
much different those
facility,
days.
Yes. And but yesterday was the most recent. I think I must have been close to 15 minutes to do it yesterday.
Yeah, was it a comfort break or a cafe break?
Cafe.
Bit of both.
Cafe.
95.4. Double cafe. Work it and work it well, boys. This is a bit of respite here. Must feel so pleasant, Sean, after you've done the cobbles. I know you carry the hurt a long time after the event, don't you, as we're on the Leeberg. 13.8 is the max, but at least it's smooth. The cobbles do have an impact. You carry the pain of it as you pass water, I think we're allowed to say, for a number of weeks after.
Well, sometimes it can hurt quite a lot. Tour of Flanders is not the one where you have some difficulty. Paris-Roubaix is the one a lot of riders, and from my experience, that was the one where you can have a number of days where it is very difficult when you go to do your P. It burdens a lot, and some years I get it and some years not, and it's just one of these things. As we see Sebastianino just losing contact, and we have seen out in the breakaway as well, the riders are starting to just get peeled off out of this breakaway, which was originally 11 riders in the earlier part of the day, but it's a little bit of downtime here at the moment. But I think there's a lot of damage being done because of the crashes. Omega Pharma, they kept the pace quite high, not really attacking, but just keeping a good pace on the front of the main peloton, and that's made it difficult for a lot of riders. And that's the reason we're seeing some of the riders on the rear of the peloton just getting blown out already.
It's not that they've knocked the pace back, it's just that we've done an awful lot of racing already. 259 kilometres is our race distance today, just under 95 still to go. The Lillare Castle with its, I believe it's biochemistry unit attached, not quite sure why, but there you go. And they're the flatlands of this part of the world, but when you get down, the Ardennes does roll beautifully, and it's got some absolutely punishing climbs, which we are enjoying, at least as spectators today. Thank you, by the way, for all of you who have written in on Twitter. It's been it's a pleasure to have your company, and you are mobbing us with your questions. How many calories, says Paul Newman, do the riders need to take on board in a race like today? It's more than a double feed, Sean, they need.
Yes, well, we can see that there's 2 feed stations. Also, the riders, when they go back to the car, on occasions we see them taking some energy bars, energy gels, and of course a lot of drink. And we've seen a number of times out on the course the important points. There's somebody from the team, a team helper. We just see a Cannondale rider some moments ago where there was a team helper just at the end of that cobble section, and he was trying to hand a rider a bottle. So but you can count, I think, 7,000 to 8,000 calories certainly.
Well, there you are. If you lead a sedentary lifestyle, hello. What have we got now? Back chain issues we're hearing. For one of the Cannondale riders, didn't get a clock on it, and poor old Stein de Volder just constantly keeps getting whipped here. Is it somebody else who's had an issue just in front of him? Not quite sure. That's Sabatini who's making the call, and it is a rear flat after all. There you are. So Sabatini it is that's just about to get that change. What's the forecast for today? Mixed, and you just can't call it. Right now at the finish line, I can tell you here in at the line, the wind is blowing, it's overcast, and it looks like rain. They're in a dry section right now. They rode out of the drizzle earlier today. It's been drier than was predicted, Sean.
Yes, well, in the earlier part of the week, they were given rain pretty much certainly for Sunday, and then in the past 2 days it changed, and today they're given the possibility of showers. They're escaping quite well, and of course we can see here with our pictures of the main peloton, there's still a lot of cloud around, as you can see here, and that is very close to finish, because now with 92 kilometers to go, they're very close to Oudenaarde all the time. They're just turning about in this area. So as we have here on the finish line, very overcast. It looks like it could get a shower at any time, and if you get some showers, it makes the roads just that little bit wet. Well, then it will make it more nervous, more dangerous than we've seen in this race up to now.
You can see the curbs. A lot of spectators are doing a great job of actually not being a nuisance, but still letting their thoughts be known. You're also coming to that zone now where we're getting into those last kicks off this circuit, and then we start the final one, where we repeat ourselves climb-wise. And you can see the grey clouds that are looming up ahead as more sustenance gets taken on. Sensibly done as well. This is Fabiu, who had a tumble earlier on, doing water-carrying duties. We also saw a few moments ago Peter Sagan very much in the zone. Likewise, Oscar Gatto is capable of winning this. Let's listen to Trek.
So I give your helmet, Fabian. Do you need something else?
Well, clearly a request coming through for something. Didn't quite get what he was after, whichever rider it was that was asking for assistance. 91.2 to go. Just under 3-minute mark now is the breakaway. That might expand because there is a bit of feeding going on here. And as you can see, they're just spinning it up. Series of corners, nasty ones, that they all sailed through rather well, thank goodness. And you see that Cannondale got themselves into a good spot. Let's just go back to that. Peter Sagan has Oscar Gatto as his last man, but I suspect he may well be sending some riders up the road. Sagan is never a man who's afraid to sacrifice his teammates. He doesn't like a lead-out train. I know that's not going to be a factor here today, but he's kind of used to working on his own, and if anything, he's going to be sending guys up the road who can help him later on. But he does so much on his own. I just wonder, has strategy-wise, has Peter Sagan, he works differently from everyone else, it seems?
Well, I think you have to, make the calculation, your team, how strong they are. And when you look at Omega Pharma Quickstep, Cannondale, Omega Pharma Quickstep are really a specialist for this sort of event. They have so many great riders, and you just have to watch the big favourites, and that's what Sagan have to do. If there's going to be a breakaway with some of the other races, that's maybe where we could see some of the...
Welcome to the Valkenburg, 88.8, sort of a purity about that number, but just over 3 minutes the gap now to our brave souls in the breakaway. They're just rolling through. Daryl Impey, who had a puncture earlier on today, done a fantastic job. Taylor Phinney at the back, but he's done much of the work today, the great time trialist. Super guy as well. Has a dodgy haircut underneath that helmet, but we'll forgive him that. And Top Sport Vlaanderen, and it looks like their number is marked right now, and unfortunately just heading backwards. It's a tough call to be out there all day, Sean, and I think Jelle Valais has been found out.
Yes, well, he's certainly found out. He's just grinding to a halt there slowly, and It's coming to the time now where the riders that are not up to this standard of race, and by that I mean the distance, which 80 kilometers to go. Some of the riders, when you get close to the 200 kilometers, a little bit over it, well then they start to have difficulty. And when you're out in the break as well, everybody has been pulling their weight in that original 11-man breakaway. It did take quite a time to get away, because it was 40 kilometers before the break, and he managed to get away today. And yeah, I think when you look at the average as well, the first 2 hours they were averaging 45 per hour. That's very aggressive racing, and then you throw in all the difficult sections, the pavé sections, the pavé climbs, and we see Yel Wallace in difficulty here. And there'll be a lot of riders when they just start to push on now. If there's an attack by some of the teams of the big favourites, well then this leading group will explode very quickly.
Peter Sagan just coming back in after enjoying a comfort break. You take a lot of fluids in, it's got to go somewhere if you don't use it. So he's got himself comfortable again. Fabian Cancellara was also out there, also just taking himself a comfort break with 87.6 to go. We're getting to the Merckx attack zone, and you'll realise just what an amazing feat that was when he went 76 kilometres or so. As we mentioned, Cancellara also just getting back in. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was that brave yet again, but back then Merckx was a young man at the start of his career, and I think it really announced him as one of the potential greats. There's a lot of split as well, that Merckx was considered part of the Brussels elite and wasn't really considered a sort of a general Fleming out there. But so yeah, maybe not as popular as you might have thought early on. Of course, he did become the absolute godhead of cycling, and still very much in this part of the world is exactly that. But is anyone going to be mad enough to go for a long one today, Sean?
Well, I think first of all you have to consider the situation here up front. We have most of the big favourites, if not them all, and we have a group of 80 riders maybe. So to go on the attack at this point, well, I think you're just going to just burn yourself out and kill yourself off with no chance of surviving. And if you look back in the past, 2011, Cancellara was the one who went in the attack very early. He had Sylvain Chavanel on tow, just sitting on him, and then there was a number of teams started right behind, and he was still there in the final. But I think he lost a chance of winning another Tour of Flanders on that day, and I doubt if we see any of the big favourites. But again, there could be some of the teams with many riders up front here, like Omega Pharma Quickstep, could up the pace at any time. When you have 6 or 7 riders from an 8-man team in the leading group here of that 70 riders, well then that could happen at any moment on any climb.
Certainly can. You saw the big grin. Orica Greenedge have decided to send a man up the road, and it's starting to cause just a little bit of worriment. Nice to see a great big cheeky smile to the motorcycle camera as well along the way. It is that sort of brief hiatus, I guess, as teammates relay back on after get relayed back on, I should say, by their teammates after comfort breaks and the like, if you are one of the principals. A great stretching, no snap just yet, but wouldn't be surprised if it's a short order before that actually becomes a reality, because everyone is feeding at the moment, and maybe it is a time to go for a cheeky one. 86.5. We've seen some flashes at the finish line. I don't think it's thunder. I think it's I may have just mistaken a photographer. I'll let you know if the thunder follows the lightning. If it does start to rain, particularly on the Koppenberg, we are in for an I keep saying nightmare, but we certainly will be. The Koppenberg is so steep that if and it is approaching, let's not forget, in about 30 kilometers time, in fact. If you get to it and there is a hiatus, if there is a stop, then you're going to have to unclip. The chase is on here.
Yes, the chase is on, and this is where it gets a bit complicated, and we mentioned a number of times, and we've heard it from some of the team directors as well, just be careful for the counter-attack, and that's what we're having at the moment here. And that's where if you have got a team with a lot of riders in this leading group, well then you can afford to send 1 or 2 men up in this breakaway. It's not something new, and there's going to be a lot of movement here, but I think there's a lot of riders trying to get into this group, because helmets. They've been worn by the director of sportive, and we can see here, you know, just riders trying to make their way across into the leading group of about, what, 7-8 riders.
I think it's worth reminding you, while you're watching the men, that the women's race is just drawing to a close, and we've got some amazing riders here as well. Ellen van Dijk having a good effort earlier on, along with Lizzie Armistead from Bols Dolmans. As you just continue to watch the men, we'll just try and call the winner along the line for you. Emma Johansson also very much involved, and the stack of photographers is waiting here. They 161 of the ladies got underway this morning. 139 kilometers, 10 climbs for them, not 17, but take nothing away from the challenge that lays ahead of them. We have, of course, our World Cup leader. We've got the Swedish champion, Emilia Ferrin, Ellen van Dijk, Lizzie Armistead we mentioned, Emma Johansson, 3 wins and 6 podiums out of 8 races. Unbelievable. 4th in Qatar for her, for Orica Australia. Also represented Rabobank women. No Vos here, but Van der Broeken is, and so is Van Vleuten. We mentioned Emma Johansson. Kirsten Wild is here, sprinter. Been a top 10 on 5 of the 6 occasions that the race has been run, and Amy Peters as well. You won't be seeing pictures of them, and I'm sorry about that, but when they cross the line, we'll let you know who has managed to ambush everybody. Jolien D'Or for Lotto Belisol, Elena Amialjuk as well is also involved today with Annemieke van Vleuten.
Not make an acceleration by yourself now, only jumping in.
There we are, only jumping in, no acceleration by yourself, keep your energy in. I remember the director sportif of Mr. Merckx said exactly the same, but he completely ignored them. Do you ever get team orders, Sean, that you just chose to ignore? Of course.
Yes, occasionally, but it's a difficult one, because if the team director tell you, you know, to just to hold off for a while, you know, you start to doubt yourself then, and of course, you know, they have a better picture because they have seen the race from behind, although now with radio contract back to the director sportif, but again, you don't know, you know, who was caught up in the crash, who to make a big chase, so you're relying on your director sportif to, you know, give you the right advice. And as we said, we heard Wilfred Peters talking there, just jump in but not to push on, and that means just go with the moves, but no, you know, not to go in the attack and just follow the other attacks.
Well, the crowd have been largely well behaved, but we're getting into that beer o'clock time of day, and unfortunately I think some have had more beer than they have friet, and you saw the waves of crowd just trying to back out, and well, all these guys just want to stay safe at the moment. They've got a lot of serious climbing to do, and the last thing you need to happen is that you get into contact with a member of the general public. So thankfully they stayed safe, and the wave actually did ebb of spectators. We'll take a break. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Welcome back. They're in the zone, and Trek Factory Racing have been told to get on the front. Cancellara feels happy. A few moments ago, he just gave the thumbs up to his teammates, and the response was almost immediate. They rolled through to the nose and injected a little bit of pace. This, the reason, 81.2 kilometers to go, and they make their turn. Several of them along the way, as I'm sure you well know. Next up is the Caperi, and that is our, I'm just looking at where that comes within the test. That's test number 8 of the Hellingen. Absolutely beautifully named. Hellingen referring to the punishment that's taken out there. Cancellara just having himself a sausage. Hey, grab what you can. It's amazing, actually. The feed bags here just get more and more personalised. You can call for all kinds of stuff. I remember my erstwhile commentator, Daniel Lloyd, actually calling for picking up a feed bag, and when he opened it up, it was actually full of jellies. Haribo, there are other jelly sweets available. He had a look at it, doesn't like that sort of thing, completely useless, and hurled it. And then on the radio, somebody came through. I won't tell you which teammate of his, because apparently it's a source of embarrassment to him. The team car came through on the radio and said, has anyone seen so-and-so's feedback, because he's really annoyed. He's just opening up, and all he's got is cake. So there you are. It doesn't always have to be high-tech, what you actually put inside your body. Sometimes just a little bit of what you fancy goes an awful long way. Well, we still have an awful long way to go as well. 80.1 kilometers, as you can see. And the guys who remaindered within our breakaway group doing a superb job, and still plying their trade with great honor. You're looking at Roman Zingler, and that is Taylor Phinney. I guess if you were going to have a if this went all the way, it would go down as one of the greatest pushes of all, because I just feel that Taylor Phinney, if you had to pick somebody from this group, would be your man. Daryl Impey would probably argue with that, frankly. He's looking very, very together. Still waiting for the ladies to come across the line. The women's race is just drawing to a close. They had 161 riders set off this morning for a course of 139 kilometers, sharing, in fact, the final finishing stage, the final finishing loop with the men, but obviously finishing an awful lot earlier. Nonetheless, they are being called in by the crowd, and it's fantastic. You're not going to see the pictures, unfortunately, as the pre-vehicles just passed by our commentary position, but we'll give you the results as soon as we've got it. 79.3 kilometers to go, 2 minutes and 30. It's been another feed, Sean. It looks like there's been a hiatus in hostilities, but just starting to see a rolling into position of riders who are being sent up there just to make sure that they're in control. Various top teams here.
Yes, well, it looks like Omega Pharma are taking control of the of things on the front of the main peloton here, and they have been doing it for quite a while. Although there's, you know, a lot of riders in this main peloton now. So, you know, there's most of the riders have got back in there who had some mechanical and who were involved in that crash or caught up behind the crash. But Omega Pharma seem to just want to push on and keep pushing here. And I suppose when you've got the numbers, you've got to use your riders, because when there's a big attack, you know, from some of the other big favourites, well, then they're going to lose them anyway. So you might as well use them while you have them. And I think that's what they're doing with Omega Pharma, with at least 2 riders setting the pace for quite a long time now in the front end of the main peloton.
It's the Kaperijk, as you've just seen. That's what we're dealing with right now. Smooth-ish at this point, but the Kaperijk, an equal test to many. Just checking on the distances for you on this particular climb. We've got the Paterberg still to come yet again, of course, and the Oude Quermont. Familiarity doesn't actually make it any easier, because depending on how you take it, every single race will be different. The ladies just drawing to a close as we are talking, so apologies if we sound just slightly distracted, because determined to give you the result of this phenomenal effort it is. And Ellen van Dijk, we believe, is certainly part of proceedings. The line, they're just about to hit it now as these guys continue to climb. We'll give you that result. Oh, what a superb lone performance it is. And Ellen van Dijk has taken the ladies' event fourth in a race earlier on. She also lost out to Vos here last year. Vos not taking part this time around, but Ellen van Dijk making up ground and indeed taking an extra step forward this year, and indeed the clock rolling on those behind her. So not on your screen, but I can tell you that Ellen van Dijk has taken the women's race, the women's Tour of Flanders, 139 kilometers with 10 climbs, and chapeau to her, Sean. That's a phenomenal effort.
Yes, a great effort. She comes in, you know, solo there, and it looks like we haven't been getting much information, but it looks like from the Patersberg she's rode away, and you know that's going to be the important part for the men's race as well. The Patersberg, I think, is going to be very much the decisive final climb of the one.
Ellen van Dijk takes it then, and it's her teammate Lizzie Armistead who comes in second place. So Bulls Dolman Cycling 1 and 2 Well, phenomenal result for them. The World Cup leader, Lizzie Armistead, she punched the air. I'm not even sure she knew Van Dijk was up the road. I'm sure she did. Just joyous in the fact that they've made it a double. Runner-up in the Alfredo Bindo was Lizzie Armistead, but takes it as World Cup leader. Armistead then finishing in second place to her teammate Ellen Van Dijk, who lost out to Vos in last year's event and now has won it, albeit in the absence of the great Vos, as I'm sure you know. Terrific that the women are given more or less equal billing here, and that the crowds respond to them equally, Sean. We met up with some of them earlier on today, and it's a different atmosphere, I think you might say, much more collective, much more of a club atmosphere, I think you might say. Very accessible, but take nothing away from the efforts and indeed the task that they had at hand today.
No, you cannot certainly take anything away, because when you look at the parcours and almost 140 kilometres and the climbs they've got to do, it's a very, very demanding and a very difficult race. And I think the important thing is here for the ladies to go out and race on the men's circuit, with the men's race coming through later on, because the crowds out there, it must give them a great feeling, because they get so much support. And that's something I think in women's racing, in the races that they're not part of the big classics like here today. The support is not as big, but it's growing all the time. Women's racing is getting more popular and getting much more support in the last number of years. And of course the UCI have been working on that, and they're trying to promote women's cycling more and more.
Didn't quite catch that, Sean, but clearly it's about position.
Yes, dietro means something on the rear. It's maybe talking to some of the riders, you're too much to the rear, and not be surprised, because it's not the place to be at the moment. With this peloton, growing to be quite a big one over the last number of kilometres, well, then you have to, move up a bit and try and be in the top 30-40 riders at this point, because to rectify a situation, or if there's attacks, well, if you're hanging around in the final 20 riders, it's not the place to be.
Here we go. This is what we were saying. You're going to get some rolling attacks. Godin is going for it for AG2R Le Mondial. He's pretty handy himself, possibly working for Steve Chanel or Seb Turgot. And maybe the Magic 76 is what it's all about. It's the Merckx mark. Yeah, why not?
Well, Godin, we've seen him in the past. Last year in Paris-Roubaix, he also went out in the attack, and it looked like, it was just a crazy tactic to do, but amazingly he just went on there and held out there for so long, and in the end he still had quite a good performance. But he is a rider, Paris-Roubaix he's done well, and I think the classic races he's not afraid to go from a long ways out.
Well, he knows his cycling history as well, and I imagine Demi Godin is determined to do a Merckx. We'll see. 76.2 kilometres to go, 2 minutes and 30. He has to do more than that. He's got to bridge over to the other guys as well. BMC just starting to respond, and we said, Sean, as soon as you start getting attacks, they roll into each other, and attacks breed attacks. That's what we've got to, that's what we may have fairly shortly.
Yes, well, I think at the moment we can see the pace is knocked off quite a bit on the front of the peloton, and when you do that, well, then you're open to attacks, and that's what we've been seeing, for the past number of kilometres. There's riders been trying, but I think there's a lot of teams being careful here, and anybody going the attack, there's a lot of riders want to be part of that breakaway, and for that reason it's difficult to get the break to succeed, because if you have 10-15 riders all the time follow and try to get into the breakaway, they're not going to allow that many riders. 3, maybe 4 riders they would allow to go off the front of the bunch, but any more than that at this point, or a solo rider like Godin.
Godin has gone for it. Get your rear into gear, I think the Cannondale riders were being told, and they have started to colour block, as you can see. They're going to let Godin fry, I think. It'd be interesting to see what happens if he bridges over to the breakaway, whether he just continues to ride by them, or indeed just starts to share the effort with the likes of Taylor Phinney, who's on his debut here. And yeah, it says Roubaix is a target, actually. Taylor Phinney might well suit him, that sort of rolling parcours as opposed to the climbs. I guess we're going to find out. Welcome back. Still, Damien Gaudin is determined to bridge over. We are coming through a narrow section. It is last feed, so last call at the bidon bar, I guess, for these guys. For 2 minutes and 37, the gap now to the remnants of the breakaway who are up the road. Time to take on sustenance, but equally time to attack if you want. But these bollards, Sean, they've been a menace. These plastic sort of traffic management, I think they are supposed to be, so that if you nudge into them with a vehicle, they are flexy. But they're not very flexy if you happen to be a bike rider. They can bring you down.
Yes, well, that's not a good place for a feed station, as you can see. The masseurs giving up the feed bag, or the nose bag, as they say in cycling terms, on the right-hand side of the road, and the bollards at the left-hand side. So the riders, want to go by. The riders that are slowing down, they have the problem with the bollards there. Everybody getting through, but not a nice area to have the feed station. And the bollards at any time in bike racing, they're always dangerous, and we've seen so many crashes because of them.
A lot of you asking why we couldn't see pictures of the ladies crossing the line if the cameras are in place. I share your feelings. I would have loved to have seen it. I'm a big fan of the Women's World Tour. Did a lot of voice work on that last year with Dave Harmon as well. And yes, it's a phenomenal series. And I've got to say, I'd love to have seen the pictures. Unfortunately, the rights are sold separately. And so those that provide the pictures, it's basically a whole different budget that you have to find in order to see that. You will, however, find it in some places, and you're just going to have to be ingenious to find it, but it's probably going to be as highlights, I'm afraid, as opposed to live, which is a real shame. But at least we brought you the result, and for those of you that missed it, a phenomenal 1-2 it was for Boels Domlands, with Ellen van Dijk taking it after losing this last year at the last two. The great Marianne Vos, Van Dijk taking it ahead of teammate Lizzie Armistead, which I'm delighted about. So well done to them. Look at the pace, look at the distance, 72 kilometres to go. Sean, we're in the business end of the day.
Yes, we certainly are the business end. We can see here Omega Pharma Quick Step, pushing on and keeping it to the right-hand side of the road. We could hear Nikki Tepstra there just shouting out to the guys who are up front, to keep it as much as possible over to the right-hand side and put everybody else in the wind. And we can see the damage is down. The peloton is starting to split big time, and groups of riders, 10 riders at the time, being blown out the rear of the main peloton.
Nobody's singing up the Canaryberg at the moment. Somebody perhaps will do by the end of the day. Goodness only knows what tune that's going to be at the moment. This is a march, I've got to say, and it feels tough just watching it. As you can see, it's mostly tarmac. There's a good deal of mud being sort of spilt on the road. Thankfully, today has remained dry, and the clouds that were threatening the finish line have just brightened a little bit or moved on. Looks to be thinning out. Likewise, the peloton, there's been an enormous pace. As the camera looks back there, you can see back on the highway, the pack are here. We've lost quite a number of riders, some of whom have just done their duty for the day, Sean. But we've had a big attrition rate in terms of injury and indeed punctures today.
Yes, well, we've had it all. You look back at the last 60 kilometres, 70 kilometres, it's just all the time action. The race... mechanical problems, we had a lot of them. Crashes, we had a big number of them, and it's just been movement all the time. And for the riders, for some of the riders trying to get back in there, they have done their job. There's a lot of riders I don't think have done anything this race. They've just been hanging on, and they're still going out the rear door of the main peloton. And we're getting into the point now where will there be an attack from some of the big favourites? But it's Omega Pharma, who have been in control for a long time and still doing that, still pushing on at the front of the main peloton.
These are the guys that Gaudin wants to join. It's an elite group, and others are deciding to reach out and have a go.
Yes, here we go. It's BMC who are going to, try and form a break here. That's Quinziato who is going in the attack, and immediately we see that there is an Omega Pharma rider on tow. There's a Sky rider also coming across here, and this is the going to be an important time now. Other teams will say, and they will get that orders the riders. Okay, guys, this is the moment now. You have to try and get across. The next riders that move, you have to be in there. And we see it's Bernie Eisel actually from Sky who is making it across with Trentin from Omega Pharma forming a three-man breakaway.
At the sign-on this morning, Bernie Eisel looked extraordinarily determined. All questions that were asked of him fell into the granite face of the man. He was not talking to anybody. He got a job to do, and I think he is possibly delivering it right now. The Austrian is a huge diesel, and he can go from an awful long way. But as you saw from the look over his shoulder, that was not a selfish look. That was just to see how far the distance is and just how much of the softening up that is required of him he still has to do. Bernie Eisel is here, and when you're in a little break, as we've got right now, this group of pursuers, as I think we'll call them, you know that you're going to get beaten up if Bernie's around. He's a hard man.
Yes, well, he is a magnificent bike rider, and he's been such a great service to especially Mark Cavendish, coming through the team when they had that great lead-out train with High Road, and he's a rider who has put a lot of time into being, most of his career has been a domestique, but a huge talent himself, and in the classics we've seen in the past he's been very much up there, and this is where the experience comes in. Eisel relies Quinziato and the Omega Pharma Quick Step rider making the move here. It was the time to get across through to the two guys, Trentin and Quinziato, and Eisel, of course, with the experience, he's done that very quickly. We did see that look over his shoulder. He had to make a big effort to get across very quickly, because if you allow to get 15-20 seconds, well, then it's going to take such a big effort, and you're not sure you're going to make it if the two really start working well together up front.
Yeah, well, they thought about it just for a moment, and that hiatus allowed Eisel to make the bridge. Maxed 14% on the Canary Berg, 7.7% is the average, and it lasts for a kilometre. It's not easy, despite the fact it's not the most famous of the climbs we're going to deal with. Next up after this, incidentally, is really where the fireworks start to happen, and you just wait. You're going to see some of the stars reaching out and going for this. 55.4 to go. We go up the Ode de Clermont for the penultimate time. Peterberg, lightwise, we will see both of those again, but immediately after those two come the Koppenberg, and that surely is already looming very large in the minds of the riders, Sean. That comes at 44 kilometres. We've only got 25 kilometres to go, and then we're going to be in that hurt zone.
Well, I think we're coming into the zone now where it's going to be the big test for the riders and the teams who have got numbers up there. First of all, they can afford to push on, and that's what Omega Pharma Quickstep are doing, and sending a man up here, of course, as we go on to this the next climb. The Ode de Clermont is going to be an important one, so if you have a man out front, that is very important for the team, and that's what I think Omega Pharma Quickstep are thinking here, with Trentin up front with a three-man breakaway. But there's definitely going to be a bit more action here, and I think we could see quite a big shake-up on the next time up the Ode de Clermont.
I think you're absolutely right, and shake up, shake down, and in the gutter, Francis de Jure, certainly one of their principals, and there's more, and it looks like they have been caught out by the telegraph poles, and that's a hard hit, and that looks like the Russian champion in the gutter as well. Oh, for goodness sake. We knew there was going to be prisoners today, but we did not realise it would be quite so dramatic as this. Let's check this out, Sean. Well, there's one. Brakes go on, and others. He take avoiding action, and it just magnifies itself, it seems. Looking further down the road as well, just trying to pick out who else is involved. That is... goodness me, he's actually staying absolutely put. I never like to see that. That's Fischer, I think, Maria Fischer. Number 152 is indeed Isaichev, the Russian champion, who we spotted a few moments ago, and he's staying put as well. It doesn't look great. Oh, Sean, it's not a happy thing to see at all. We want a straight race, a fair race, and indeed a feisty one, but you'd never like to see anybody hurt in this.
No, certainly not. And it's part of the race. There are going to be crashes, but you don't like to see anybody hurt, and nobody does. You know, the teams and the other competitors and the big rivals between each other, they don't like to see that. But it looked like that the crash occurred before the big concrete post there, because they seemed to be going down before they got to it, and hopefully nobody that, you know, crashed into that. But you know, it looks like that the Russian champion seems to be the worst off here for the moment. But the Française du rider also looks to be in trouble, but he's starting to move now and looks like he's going to get back on the road.
I can't see Isajev wanting to get back on at this point. 66.8, and the pace is going to be very, very high. And guess who is in P3 of this little string? Peter Sagan. Yes, the great Slovakian champion, with his own national colours straight down on that stripe down his back. And he checks to see where his teammates are, and he just eases off and lets them mob around him for protection. His main battering ram today is going to be Oscar Gatto, no doubt about that. And we will keep an eye and see how they perform. We'll take a break, back in a moment. Welcome back. The hurt zone is where we are, and it is going to hurt an awful lot more. We're heading for the Eau de Clermont. Sean, this is really testing loops that we're dealing with. Oh, and the road tested yet again. It's just a constant. Stein de Volder's been held up again, the Belgian champion. He's just rode back on. We've got one of the MTN Quebec riders on the deck. But that was yet another piece of bad luck for De Volder. I don't know how many of these he's going to catch along the way today. That looks like J. Bob Thompson. It is Reimer it's being declared as. But we'll have a look at that. I think, oh, goodness me, just get the, and the sheer disgust of the uninjured, I think, as well. The Drucker, as you can see. Was never likely to be his day, but just finishing on a day such as this. And it is Martin Reimer from Quebec, by the looks of things, who's just about to get back on board. In pain, but still in the race. There's Stein de Volder, the Belgian tricolour, as you can see, and yet again he gets held up as a static. Just unclipping, doing a good dancing job was Antoine Dechaine from Europcar. One man left on the deck, but did get himself back up fairly shortly afterwards. Well, they didn't look like any injuries, but it won't be the last of the crashes today. And I think the pace that's been injected kind of tells you that they need to stay safe and want to. The quicker they go, Sean, bizarrely, the safer it can be, because they string out and there's more road choice.
Yes, when you keep the pace real high, but that is a difficult one to do. As we can see here on the front of the group, it's the Cannondale team who was just taking it up, and being joined by Trek now at this moment, because the breakaway, of course, we see that Omega Pharma Quickstep have Trentin up the road with Bernie Eisel and Quincy Atto from BMC, so they've got, to take control of the situation here. But I think the race is so nervous today that just going to be crashes all the time. It seems to be that the riders just are really, really nervous, and they're just taking so many risks. And you see Popovic, the crash. I think that was a big mistake by Popovic, a rider of his experience. He was trying to come through there. It was very, very tight. He should have tried to knock off his pace, but maybe because he was in the water gully, it's not easy to start braking, because then you can start sliding anyway. But it looks like that the riders are really pushing the limits out, and that equals crashes.
More punches just rolling through, and those that were held up by the crash likewise just have to make their way back on. Hello. The familiar bearded figure right there before your eyes of Luca Paolini goes back for a gel bar. Paolini is the man who helped Christoph in the Milan-San Remo. 7th here in 2013 as well, Paolini. He looking ready for a scrap, really. He's very gladiatorial when he needs to be. And don't write Paolini off for Katusha. Likewise, they've got Alexander Kristoff himself here from Milan-San Remo. They worked well there. I think it'll be roles reversed this time by, and Paolini is probably the favoured rider for the men in red and white. 62.7 kilometres to go. Just over 2 minutes now is the gap. The Karel Wunderdalen Memorial. There we are, with all of the daffodils therein. bless him. Yes, let's just hope he's looking down on all of us today, shall we? And the charge is on. Trek Factory Racing trying to keep some pace going here. I think this is to try and nullify Peter Sagan. He's a hard man, though, to nullify. We've got a little camera in our bottom right-hand corner of the screen, which probably announces this.
We zitten zo bovenop de Hoofdtolstraat. Er is nog een kilometer of 8 naar de voet van de Quaremont. Dat wordt ons belangrijkste punt van vandaag. Hè. Zo meteen voet Quaremont.
Punt van vandaag.
Yeah, 8 kilometers from the bottom of the Outer Quaremont, the most important part of today's race.
There we are. It's not even the final time over the Quaremont, don't forget. But, Sean, we knew this was going to be vital. Coming as it does with only 62 kilometres to go, that's for the breakers. It will be at 55, by the way. So the race is on to be in a good position for the second time of asking over the Quaremont. Then the Pelleberg beckons. The Quaremont, let's remind you, 2.2 kilometres. That's the point. It is so long. 4% average, but a maximum of 11.6. And it hurts, Sean.
Yes, it's going to hurt this time. I think we can see that there's a lot of movement once again on the front of the peloton here, left and right. We see riders trying to move up, and I'm not surprised that we hear from Nico Verhoeven this is the most important part of today's race. You have to get it right here, be in a good position, and very possibly we could see an attack from some of the big favourites, some of their teammates, and you have to be in the right position for that, because to rectify it from here on, as we come to just a bit over 60 kilometres to go, and when we get in the Quaremont, we're getting that magic 50 kilometres to the finish. That's where you have to be very careful and make sure you're in the right position first of all. Then of course you have got to get the legs. If you're in good shape, then you can react and follow the other big favourites. Magic
would have to be relied on, I'm sure, by a number. Let's hope that 10 wide into 4 will go. Well, they've pulled off that magician's trick right now, but the race to that turn was led by Cannondale, Trek and Omega Pharma Quickstep. You wouldn't expect anything else. Sky is staying reasonably safe, but taking some risks here by letting others do most of the work, save, of course, for Bernie Eiselus up the road in a pursuit group, including Kinziato from BMC and Matteo Trentin from Omega Pharma Quickstep, who seem to be trying to keep all bases covered as we speak. Just 60.8 kilometres to go. We will be on the Quaremont before you know it. That peaks out at 55.4, and so this already, even on the approach, Sean, feels like a climb.
Yes, it does. When you turn on to the Quaremont, the first 1.5 kilometres, it does kick up a lot, and it's going to hurt. And this time, the way the peloton is going to attack it, we can see here Jimmy Egouvin from Europcar just getting back in here to the group, and we're definitely going to see a big shake-up. There's a lot of riders going to lose contact with the main peloton, but the big question is there going to be an attack from some of the big teams, some of the big favourites? We could see there from Trek Factory Racing, Jesse Sargent, he was riding on the front and he was pushing on. He's just gone out the rear door totally here, and for the moment Astana wants to take it up, and Belkin also appearing here. So it's as we've been hearing from the Director Sportifs, it is a very important point of the race.
Absolutely vital. Tinkoff Saxo haven't really said much of them. They've got Danny Bernardi here, Karsten Kroon as well, Nicky Sorensen, who's a big powerhouse, as you know. So they in their yellow and navy blue. The pale blue, sky blue of Astana. Borut Bozic, the sprinter, is actually still here, still intact within this group. Got Valentin Aglinski and Dmitry Gruzhov, Andrew Grivko as well, doing a lot of powering. 59.3 kilometres to go. Don't forget the crucial zone is at 55, but the approaches, it's almost very difficult. It's almost hard to, if not impossible, to actually say where the Eau de Clermont actually begins. But it's given us 2.2 kilometres, but there is a ramp approach to it. They're on it now. This is not flat, but it is fast, that's for sure. We've had a hell of a pace today, Sean.
Well, it's been a very aggressive race. When you look at the first 2 hours, the way they raced, over 45 kilometres average for the first 2 hours, that is very fast racing. When you consider 260 kilometres of a race today, and then you throw in all those difficult climbs, cobble sections, and we're seeing the effects it's been having. And at the moment, like, we're on a big section, a big road here, but when we turn onto the Quaremont, it's quarter of this, a third of this size of road, so that's going to be important, and you have to really be in the top 20 there as you go on to the narrow section.
Zach van Markham still waiting to get a full visual on him. Top 5 in the Kern-Brussels-Kern, the E3, and indeed Ghent-Wevelgem. Took a tumble earlier today. Still not sure whether he's actually managed to get back on and in, but Belkin looked very much up for it, and he was, well, playing card number 1. He was their ace in the pack. They've got other choices to make. Martin Chillingi, Van Emden, Martin Vinance, and Lars Bohm, amongst others. 57.8 kilometres to go. 1 minute and 28 now. We still have our breakaway group, albeit thinned down. Some intermediate riders as well, including Bernie Eisel. And just look at this. This is dangerous stuff. It's not going out. It's coming back in, because you're going to find shoulders there. And if a piece of road furniture is blocking you as well as those men, you're going to get yourself into all kinds of bother. But they're prepared to take the risk, Sean, because it's almost more important to be in the right place for this turn.
Yes, well, we could see there, you know, vital to move up a little bit. 5-10 places is so important, and the riders, they just take so much risk, flipping behind the trees there on the bike path, and you know, it's just really, you know, serious stuff here. So much battling and so much fighting for positions.
Greg van Avermaet and the great Thor Ushoft, of course, part of the BMC team. Thor working for Van Avermaet, the long-range attack specialist. Seychelles just pulls over. He's got a rear puncture yet again. Greg van Avermaet, he really is a long-range attacker. It could be that they're forming the launch pad for him with 56.7 to go. It's a typical time to go for it, Sean, right here, right now.
Well, I think if you can go here and you know, get a group of maybe 5 or 6 riders to form out front, you could go a long ways here, because there could be, you know, rivalry between the bigger favourites, and that's something that's probably some of the riders thinking of, but you know, again, we just have to wait and see now as we get to the climb of the Eau de Quaremont. Will they be at an attack? Sometimes they ride so hard to get onto the Eau de Quaremont, get position as we are just about to turn on here, then it just slows down and nothing happens.
Well, let's have a look, shall we? 8 into 2 and 3 wide. You saw Bradley Wiggins just getting himself into position as well. Bearded figure that he is nowadays. Some great work being done here as well. Puccio's been extremely lively. I haven't really seen that much of Geraint Thomas, and you can be sure that he is going to be a feature towards the end. Geraint, in fact, is close to the business end, as you've just seen. 55.6 kilometres to go. Sky just rolling with this one at the moment, and this looks like a block being put on, and it's allowing the Topsport Vlaanderen rider to go for this. Danger man for them is Kenny van Bilsen, who is not afraid to go from distance, and I think this is our Ken right now. Long of limb and huge of ambition. But why not, eh? 55.5 to go, 1 minute and 9 now, so the gap to those in the break is a narrow one. This is bridgeable.
Well, I think bridging the gap maybe is not the thought on Kenneth van Bilsen's mind here. It's just to get up an advantage, 15 seconds, get onto the climb, and if there's an attack, then you're over the difficult part of it, because the first part's 500-600 metres, that's where it is very steep, and if you can get through that, it does flatten out, and if there's a big attack, he probably feels, well, I'm not going to be able to follow the big guy, so try and get an advantage here. But he's making it across to the tree out front. I thought they had a little bit more of an advantage, so he's going to get across to the 3 men out front here very quickly.
Intermediate riders they are. This is the break that is still up the road, and Daryl Impey of Orica Greenedge is doing a fantastic job. Lotto Belisol also very much involved. That is Brook just behind him. Taylor Finney. There is 2 others from the breakaway, including Cofidis Zingler, and I think that is Wes Crader, cousin of Ray from Garmin, who was in it earlier on. 55.1 to go. And it is in Vandersloot from it's Wes Crader's teammate, I beg your pardon, of course. Wes in trouble earlier on. in trouble is going to be the watchword today. Right now, Daryl Impey is doing a fantastic job of powering up this. Brooks as well for Lotto Belisol is in fine company, and that is Taylor Finney at the back. And here come those intermediate riders along with Kenny Van Bilsen just behind. Now, Captain Ken, as he likes to call himself for Top Sport Vlaanderen, is capable, but unfortunately for him, so are these guys who are just behind. And it's not going to be far back. The likes of Cancellara and indeed Sagan, who's chock centre of your screen right now. It's almost like the parting of the waves. And Sagan looks like he's on a roller trainer right now. Nice and calm, mouth closed, you'll notice. Plenty of other open mouths around him. Tell you who's also there was John Degenkolb, right towards the business end.
Yes, we can see Tom Bonan very much there. Bozenhagen also in the top 20 riders. So all the big favourites, you know, pretty much in there. We can see Degenkolb there. It's Cannondale who are controlling the situation at the moment. So now the question is, will they be an attack? And sometimes when the race is that bit more difficult, which it is this year, will that maybe scare the riders a bit, and they'll, you know, play the waiting game and not go in the attack until the very final planks?
Well, there you are. Motorcycles just getting tangled up as well. If you look at the surface, it has two worn sections there, either side of the crown. What it does is it squeezes the crown upwards, and so you can kind of fall off the crown and into the bowl either side. And it makes for very unstable riding. It's not a comfortable place. It also means that the crown of the road, which is a choice place to be, is fought for, and so it has this narrowing effect. There's a very small comfort zone, if there is one even at all. Sagan's rolling towards the front. Thomas is staying reasonably close, and I tell you something, Cancellara is not in the best position at the moment if somebody does decide to kick off. Eddie Bosch-Bozenhagen, expecting a little bit more from him. Maybe he will get himself into position and launch an attack, part of the softening up that Eisel started on behalf of Sky.
And we've just seen the BMC rider Quinziato, who was in that little three-man group way out front, getting a wheel change. So he was in a lucky place, or in a good place, because he was out front, got the wheel change, and he's still, you know, very much in the front end of affairs.
Well, Loretta Scott has come in on Twitter and said, this is ridiculously brutal, riveting stuff. Loretta, you're absolutely right. It is brutal. It was never meant to be easy, and it's why you win this one, and it feels like you've won them all. You go down in history when this is part of your palmares. You are forever one of the very greats. Mario Trentin has been beating himself up here. Plenty of others as well along the way.
Yes, you're one of your pick of the day, Jens Kukeler from Ulrika Greenedge here, 126, making the move across as well, and now the question is, will we see some action? It doesn't look like that for the moment that anybody going to go in the attack, but maybe just over the top here we could see somebody pushing on, but all the big favourites very much to the fore. Cancellara certainly in the top 20. If you're really feeling good, well, then you can afford to do that. Sit back a bit further and just leave the other guys think maybe he's not so good, he's sitting a bit further off, and that's something the Director Sportives will be seeing on the screens as well, back in their cars. They'll say maybe Cancellara is not in such good shape, he's sitting a long ways off. It can be a bit of bluff also.
Can be. And I believe we've got Tom Bonan coming up in just a few moments' time, talking about the Patenberg, which is next, don't forget. So, Eau de Clermont dealt with. Like to see Kerkelaer do a great job today. It would help re-plaster my bathroom. I've got some money on the man, and he's part of this little quartet. 53.5 kilometres to go. Bit of a check over the shoulder. What about Kerkelaer? Why did I go for him? Very, very, very strong on the Dwars door of Vlaanderen. And if his tactics had been better, he'd have been better, or he got a better result. Maybe he's learned. Maybe he'll let some others do the job for him. Kaczynski is the lone rider, but the pack are coming. The crowds are out. Let's hear from the great Tom Bonan.
It's special in Flanders because it's the only time in the year where you have to do it on the cobblestones. It changes the climb completely because in other races you have a gutter of about 10-15 centimeters on the left side. So it's a fight to go to the bottom of it because everybody wants to be on the top positions, top 3 positions. Because if you're in the gutter and the first guy goes and the second stops, you have to pass him on the cobblestones. So that's really the difficulty of the Paterberg in another race. In Flanders, it's on the cobblestone. So there's fences, you have to ride on the cobblestones, and then it's really hard. We did it on training, me and Stevie, and we did it a few times on the cobblestones. And I think that was probably the first time I find a good trajectory on it to really know where I can go and really accelerate. And that was the difficult part the only year I did in 2012. I never really raced on the Paterberg to decide the race because it's always in the beginning of the race, or it was never really something very important. But now it's the last climb, so it's very important. So now you have to focus on it a little bit more and train on it.
Focus on it, train on it, know it, feel it. That's the words of the great Tom Bonen. Well, can he possibly today do it again? It's a shaky one, and so is he. Oh, and so are they. Check that out. That is Tinkoff Saxo as well. Almost on. Oh, and Stein de Volder. How many times has he been involved in crashes? And he's holding his arm. Sean, I think he's been held up or not or involved 5-6 times today. And finally, I think that is day done for him. Surely he can't just keep getting back on and fighting.
Difficult to make it back into the front now because I think the race is really going to push on here. As we said some moments ago, we're getting into that 50 kilometers to go point, and he seems to be suffering quite a bit here. But when you crash, you get back in and you get back to the main group of big favourites without having to make too much of an effort. You say to yourself, well, crash happens. It's part of the risk of bike racing. But when you crash 3 times, 4 times, well then the morale starts to just go totally.
The attacks are starting to roll through. We've seen, as Tom Bonen was talking to us, he saw Oscar Gatto had been sent up the road by Cannondale to be a marker and maybe drift back and help Peter Sagan later on. Does Sagan need help? That's the question. These guys do. That's for sure. And here goes that attack. Gatto just going by your screen. We look for Sagan. There he goes. Part of the main pack. Didn't get held up. There is Cancellara. It seems to be struggling on this one. But then again, so is absolutely everybody. It does max out. Good and proper. The Paterberg, don't forget, the maximum is 20.3%. You think that's bad? Wait till you get to the Koppenberg, which exceeds that at 22, and for 600 meters as well, a nightmare. So the Paterberg will be our final climb. So we're going to come back and do the Oude Clermont and the Paterberg again. In the meantime, we've got the Koppenberg still to come. And these guys all know this, Sean. This is part of the strategy of the day. Be where you need to be when it matters, and it matters now.
Yes, it certainly matters in this one, and to be in a good position. As we can see here, the Ulrika Greenedge having difficulty, and you just need one rider to have that, and he can just block the whole road if he stops in the middle of the road. But you have to be in the position where you can react if there's something happening up front. And but again, we can see here it's Omega Pharma Quick-Step who is setting the pace. I'm not sure there will somebody go in the attack here. Maybe with 50 kilometers out, the way the situation is at the moment, Cancellara very much the fore as well. Doesn't look like, as we go over the top, nobody trying to go at this point.
John Degenkolb from Team Giant Shimano took the win in Gent-Wevelgem. I had to say, I didn't believe in John Degenkolb for this one. We'll see how he goes up the Koppenberg, but he's absolutely where he needs to be at the moment. He's powerful, and more than that, he's quick. And let's not forget, Sean, with all this climbing, we forget that there's a wide open highway to finish it off.
Well, this is a very open run in, but of course there's quite a lot of climbs to come yet. The next one from here is the Koppenberg, and that's 6 kilometers from here, so it's important to be up front. If there's nothing happen on the front end of the peloton, you just have to be in the top 10-15 riders, and what I could see there going through, most of the big favourites are there.
Stein, no, misread, apologies. It wasn't a misread. I just didn't believe my own eyes. Stein de Volder has got back on the bike, and he is determined to ride like the Belgian champion he is, and double winner of this, don't forget, Sean.
Yes, wow. It's chapeau to get back on the bike again, and he's really fighting there to try, get back into the main group of riders. It depends on what happened up front. We could see a little bit of downtime, but I doubt it very much when you consider the next one is the Koppenberg, and that is a very important climb, and it's only 6 kilometers from here.
Sometimes it chokes you up, this game. Stein de Volder, what a brilliant athlete. I hope he nails this. Fantastic. Some of you are saying you don't watch this because it is just so brutal. It is. It's amazing.
Yes, well, it's amazing. The amount of crashes today, the amount of mechanicals, it's really turning out to be a lottery for a lot of the riders and a lot of the teams. And we could see there with the BMC, it looked like the BMC riders were changing, one of the BMC giving the wheel to the other, and that's what caused the crash. The riders came round the corner and maybe touched up on one of the BMC riders, and that what caused de Volder and a number of Tinkoff Saxo riders to go down.
Well, I've composed myself. Sorry about that. If Stein de Volder goes and wins this one, I'll be in floods of tears. So just warning you. Welcome back. Just under 47 kilometres to go. 34 seconds the gap now. Stein de Volder has set you all alight. Me too. Stein de Volder deserves to win. Belgians wait in cheese for his efforts today, says JD. Stein de Volder, absolutely amazing. I need a Belgian beer for the courage to watch, says John Monks. You've got to find your courage from somewhere. These guys, they just dig so deep. And when you know what they are giving, it's just beyond belief on occasion. 46.5 kilometres to go. I believe we've got Tom Bonen again, and it must be the Koppenberg. Let's just have a look. In fact, is it Cancellara? Let's just have a look, shall we?
It's a terrifying climb because you take a descent down and you have a right corner and it's really straight, so you can see it. Sometimes you have a climb and it's with the corners and in the forest, you cannot really see it, but this is like a wall. So you take the corner, it's straight away on cobblestones, which take the speed out of you. And then it gets harder and harder, it improves, it gets steeper and steeper and steeper until I think it's 20% or something on the steepest part. And it's a pretty long climb as well. And it's not a climb that most of the riders like, because in the past there has been a few times that everybody had to walk up the climb. I never had to walk up it, so I think it's a nice... Now it's more nice because you have it... I think the Koppenberg will probably be the opener of the final.
The opener of the final. Well, somebody opened Pandora's box some time ago, Sean, and all hell has broken loose. It's like pestilence, what they're dealing with today. There's no answer to it. You've just got to fight.
Yes, you've got to fight, and today is the day where some have to fight more than others, and de Volder is the one who has been fighting all day, trying to get back in on a number of occasions. But up front, we can see here the group of Bonen and Cancellara. There's only about 30 riders, so there's a big split here, and that's because of that crash we see with the de Volder a bit further back the road here. And they are pushing on now, and as Tom Bonen said, it's an important one. This one could be the decisive one of the race.
So, Koppenberg, they're turning onto it right now, and just look at the road. It goes up to the sky, but it's not heaven. Oh, no. This couldn't be closer to hell. Unbelievable. Well, you better believe it, because they're going to try and deal with it right now. Come to a stop, and you will have to unclip. There's no way you can start again. And the race to get onto it, Sean, began some time ago.
Yes, well, I think the racing has been, in the last 15, 20 kilometres, in the back of a lot of the riders' minds, I have to get over the ones before the Koppenberg, and you know that means that be a good position on the outer quarter mount, the Patersberg, and the Koppenberg could be the decisive one. As we can see here, you know the leaders out front are all just struggling to get up it, and it's Omega Pharma Quick-Step who are keeping the pace real high. A lot of riders have got back again, so there's a group now of maybe 50-60 riders with the big favourites.
You can ride up it. It's possible. But for mere mortals, it seems anything but. You'll see them weaving all over the place. Thankfully, it's dry today. That's the one blessing. There's not much wind either. And indeed, the crowd extraordinarily well marshalled, as you can see. But it is so difficult. The Koppenberg. Now, if they were tightly packed here, there'd be no space. We may well get a record for riding up it today, because the attacks have already been so early, Sean. It's strung them out. We said pace builds in safety, and that appears to be what we've got right now.
Well, I think we can see Tom Bourne is starting to push on here. Cancellara, we could see him on the left-hand side of our screen, so in a really good position. And you know, with the dry conditions, I think there will be a lot of the riders will get up on bike, at least 30-40 riders, but you have to be in the position where you take the least danger, the least risk possible, and that's what Bourne is doing here as he leads onto the climb.
Bonen's here, so is Sagan, so is Degenkolb, the big brute, and he's got to be the man they fear now that they've done the Koppenberg. We're going to have the Steenbidries and then the Tyenberg before we come back and do some more climbing again. One more intermediate climb before we see the Oude Kwaremont and the Paterberg once more. A lot of climbing still to be done, but the strong, quick men are here.
Yes.
And Eddie Bos too.
Yes, we can see Van Mark very much to the fore there from Belkin, Cancellara, Sagan, Degenkolb, as you mentioned. So a lot of the big favourites, Chabanel as he goes through there. So there's not really a split at the moment. The riders seem to be in the wheels, so it's not maybe caused as much damage as they would be expecting. But again, now the position is there going to be more attacks after they get over the climb?
Well, eternal questions, I guess. There certainly will be attacks. It's just a question of when they come. 43.7 kilometres to go, and it looks like strolling pace, doesn't it? It's not that fast, but because of the approach speed, so many have been able to stay in the saddle, Sean, over this.
Well, I think you've got to stay in the saddle because of the gradient here. If you try and get out of the saddle, the bike just has to hop. The rear of the bike, the rear end just had to hop about too much. You have to just sit in the saddle and try and get up it, power up it. And we can see the boulder here still battling away, and he's probably 40-50 seconds at least off the group of big favourites. But again, we could just see up front a moment ago, Cancellara was looking around. There was about 12 or 15 riders in that leading group ahead of quite a big group of riders, only 50 metres ahead of a big group of riders.
Stein de Volder's relaying himself back on. This is that's going to be the story of the day, or at least one of the chapters. What an amazing man, and what a phenomenal effort it is for him to get back on. You're looking at the head of the race right now. Interestingly, Peter Sagan is right here. He looked long and hard into the eyes of I think it was Impey as he went by him, and he means business today. He's in predatory mode, and as you know, he can be an assassin. I love the way he gets into his descending mode, straight onto the crossbar, as low as he possibly can. Even for a modest moment, he'll save as much energy as he needs to. 43.2 to go.
Well, he needs to react here because we can see up front it's Terpstra from Omega Pharma Quick-Step is pushing on. Cancellara reacts immediately because he knows if he allows Terpstra to go away, he's the danger man. Quick-Step are going to play that card, and Sagan also sees that Cancellara is trying to move away with Terpstra, so he has to react also, and that's the advantage to Tom Bourne, and they are going to have to make the effort to watch the other riders of Omega Pharma Quick-Step. And now it's going to be an interesting one. Will we see somebody going the attack, or will Omega Pharma Quick-Step continue setting a pace?
Somebody could well turn themselves from being a good rider to one of the greats today. And right now, John Degenkolb is starting to look rather scary. Dries de Weyens as well, don't forget, from Giant, more than a little handy. And so is Peter Sagan, who just seems to roll in and out of our thoughts constantly here. Welcome back. This is the lead group, and it's got some talent on board. And just look at Edvald Boasson-Hagen. He's just for Sky in his blue striped helmet, as you can see, dead centre. He is just responding beautifully to pace today. I don't know where he's been hiding, but it's done him the power of good. And right now, we're approaching the Steenweg-Prijs. This will be peaking out at 39.2, so we're nearly there. It's short and sweet, 700 metres, 5.3% average, 6.7%, so more or less a constant. But he's starting to scare me now, Edvald Boasson-Hagen, because he's looking very handy. Geraint Thomas is also here, by the way. Saw Puccio doing a lot of work early on. Bradley Wiggins also got involved. But we've got three bunches, essentially. Stein de Volder is in what we believe is the third group. May well be may have made it over to the second, but they're all reasonably close together. Still a lot of climbing to do, still a lot of time, still have absolutely no idea who's going to take this, Sean.
No, as we can see here, we have a group of around 18 riders with another chasing group of 25, 30 riders, 15 riders, and it looks like that they are going to make it across. De Volder is certainly not in this second group. You know, we could see on the Koppenberg he was at least 50 seconds, if not more often, to be, you know, to make it across. He's not going to make it that quickly, if ever now, because up front we can see there's, you know, more and more riders want to push on. We can see there where Cannondale just keep the pace up here, and you know, we have all the big favourites here. I don't see, you know, between the two groups, the leading group and that small group, which is just about to make it 15 riders. I think that's the winner's going to come out of that.
Peter Sagan's isolated. He hasn't got a teammate here, and he would like one. And I believe that Oscar Gatto has set off in pursuit to try and help out with his mighty hams on display. If he manages to bridge over, then things will be all the better for Peter Sagan, because Gatto can be used to nullify any breaks that go. But the trouble is, he's got to put some effort in now because Sagan is further up the road. We've got a cam coming now. This will be an onboard with one of the teams to find out their thoughts, or maybe just get a little bit of insight. Here we are.
Now, nobody can go without us, eh? Nobody can go without us.
Well, there we are. Basically, make sure nobody goes without us.
No, the train doesn't go without us. Nobody goes without us. Well, when you look at Omega Pharma Quick Step here, first of all, we have leading here Dal Limpi once again from Green Edge pushing on here. But advantage, I think, Omega Pharma Quick Step, they have a number of riders in this leading group, as we can see, a number of riders getting back into the rear end of it.
There you are, the big push going on at the moment. This is Sabatini, incidentally, and I believe it's Bodnar. Yes, it is, the pair of them. So Sagan's called for help. He needs them to stay with him. Well, figure it out. Go figure. He usually likes to work on his own, but maybe there's just too much still left to do, and everyone else around him seems to have teammates who are capable of delivering some assistance. 38.5 kilometres to go. This has been one heck of a day already, Sean, and you feel like we could almost start now. There's so much drama still to come.
Well, still just under 40 kilometres to go, and a lot of difficult terrain to be dealt with. You know, we still have the Oude Quaremont and the Patersberg in the very final there. You know, the penultimate one, Oude Quaremont, we have seen that already, and the Patersberg is going to be, you know, the real launching pad, and somebody who has got, you know, the real good legs, they can just create a difference, take 10-15 seconds of an advantage on the climb, and then I think everybody's going to be coming over in ones, maybe two riders together, but we could see some of this team tactics being worked, and that's what we're seeing here at the moment with Omega Pharma Quick Step, with Van Keespoel pushing on here with Eddie Boasson-Hagen in tow.
Eddie Boss is your danger man. in a situation like this. He's got a reasonable sprint finish, don't forget, albeit from a select group who've gone through a whole load of hurt. That seems to be his main characteristic these days. There was a lot expected of the Norwegian that you're looking at right now as our head of the race. The thing that surprises me is just how fresh he looks and able to just respond smoothly to pace changes. It's terrific. Van den Berg and De Weens are here alongside him. Dries De Weens looking after John Degenkolb, and just Degenkolb's within that little group just behind. Two great riders to have for Team Giant Shimano. If it comes down to a sprint towards the end, then it could well be that Degenkolb makes that vault, as we said, to greatness from his already elevated position. A little bit of a transition there, light bit of cobbles onto tarmac, and 37.5 to go. Talent will out, but just how? Well, now is where you get your answers over the next 37.4 kilometers. We've just come over the Steenbeek Dries. It wasn't that much of a test as we go through the hoppers and onto a little bit of paved section. And it's another little ramp as part of it. The Tyenberg, one rolling directly into the other. 15.8%, but so short, it's almost like a shock. 530 meters only. It could be a launch pad, and that's what these guys are thinking.
Yes, we can see BMC, of course, with Greg Van Avermaet. He's made a move already just before we got the climb there, but a lot of riders on tow and not prepared to work with him. Here he's pushing on the climb, as we see Edward Bosenhagen from Sky Team pushing on, and Van den Berg, surprised that he was pushing on before the climb. Now he seems to be getting into difficulty.
This is a proper dig by Greg Van Avermaet. He is a long-range attacker. He is a man who lights the fuse early and hopes to cruise. And right now, he is just eating into this and Stijn van der Berg. Oh, so many tales to be told. And looking behind, I'm just seeing who it is. Sagan is or was within the lead group and calling for Oscar Gatto to get up and help out. Motorcycles just touch fairings. You can see that the climb is also having an impact even on the powered machines here. Well, not even 1 horsepower, but they're galloping right now over every single one of these tests. And Peter Sagan, notably, is right here. This is scary stuff.
Well, we can see the situation here. Cancellara is making the effort to get across to the two men just out in front, Greg Van Avermaet and Stijn van den Berg, and he knows that if he can do that, well, then it's up to the Omega Pharma Quick Step to try and do something here, because with our two leaders out front, Omega has got to do something and try and close this one down. When we get a closer look, we will see it looks like that Cancellara is on his own from Trek Factory Racing. So a good move by Cancellara just to close down that two-man group out ahead, and then it's up to Omega Pharma to rectify the situation.
The top two favourites are on your screen right now, and they are absolutely locked together. It's Sagan's wheel that Cancellara is just chasing down right now. Omega Pharma, however, are there in abundance. Van Kiersbulk is also here. Come on, help out, he says, if you want to be part of the action today. Well, Sagan was bitten last year by Cancellara and won't want to offer up too much assistance. And as a result, he just drops back rather quickly after taking his turn, albeit diplomatically, I think. Time to start churning the big one. If you happen to be from Omega Pharma, they expect a lot. Tom Bonen expects a lot. And with the likes of Stibar, Terpstra, Van Kiersbulk, well, why wouldn't you? Eddie Bos is just up the road. Here he is for Sky, just trailing De Weens at the moment, who's doing a good job of being in the right place and possibly at very much the right time for John Degenkolb, who is part of the chasing group. And if Degenkolb has got his man to maybe just drag him over the last couple of climbs, then Degenkolb could well be a very quick winner, as he was in Gent-Wevelgem. Tom Bonen looks weary, waves on. I don't know whether that's for the cameras and indeed for the directors sportifs, who these days have media on board their machines, or whether it's real. Well, I guess we're going to find out. Nicky Terpstra taking a big old swig. He's resting up. He doesn't have to do a lot of work here. I wonder if Terpstra is going to be the chosen one. If Bonen doesn't feel like it, he'll give Terpstra the nod. But then again, Guillaume van Kiersbroek also here, and he is an amazing athlete. Of course, took the 3 days to pound rather unexpectedly after time trialing the brilliant performance on the last day. But also, let's not forget, was a real engine when it came to the climbs and the fast stuff. There's the back end of a beast, and it happens to be Sagan. Rolling into it, rolling with the punches, and number 144 there with the double stripe on his back is John Degenkolb. Famously, there are some spiders that have that marking, and they're deadly. 7 seconds is the gap now, that's all. This is very select, Sean.
Yes, it is select, and you know, you look at the number of riders here, the big favourites pretty much all in there. We can see everybody is you know, contributing to the pace setting. We could see Cancellara, Tom Bonen, they are trying to get everybody to contribute here to work, and of course Bonen and Omega Pharma Quick-Step, they have the advantage with numbers.
Well, 2 is a magic number, especially if they happen to be Dries de Weens and John Degenkolb. All right, numbers 144 and 145. 2 is Stein de Volder, incidentally. I think he's going to get my combativity, or at least bativity award today. He's taken a battering, that's for sure. 34.3 kilometres to go, and I think we may have found them, Sean. I think they're going to keep enough pace in this, because they don't, frankly, want Sagan to get any assistance.
Well, I think it's going to be a tactical game now as we catch the 2 leaders out front. And when you look at the group here, Cancellara, of course, is in here. Sagan, 2 of the big favourites, but no teammates with them. Tom Bonen, of course, there is 3 teammates with Bonen, so that is going to be the interesting one. Will they continue on riding here, or will they start attacking now? That is the question. We can see there's an AG2R rider as well. I haven't seen who it is, but he's doing a great ride to be up here with such hot competition.
I think it might be Chanel. We'll find out in a moment. Damien Gaudin was the man who went up the road, don't forget, but yeah, long-range player, I think you might say. As far as Sagan is concerned, he's got a problem, and the problem are the likes of the quicker men within this group, and that is Edvald Bosenhagen and John Degenkolb. And Seth Van Mark also very much part of proceedings. There's Eddie Bos and Degenkolb, the 2 men who are going to strike fear in Sagan if it comes to an out-and-out sprint. Now, Sagan can sprint, but he doesn't have any teammates around him, so they can do the old 1-2. They can counterpunch him using Dries de Weens to power up the climbs and leave Degenkolb not having to do anything. He can ride on this group, and Sagan is now busy working out what he's got to do. Tom Bonen, wouldn't it be amazing if the great man, former world champion, you see the rainbow stripes upon his arms here.
Come on,
wouldn't it be amazing if he manages to get a 4th victory? Let's have a listen.
Zo lang mogelijk iedereen laten ronddraaien. Dat is belangrijk voor iedereen.
Well, I couldn't have understood more if there was 2 of them speaking, or less.
Leave them ride, leave them work together, leave everybody work together as long as possible.
There we are, save your energy, basically. Zdenek Stybar, great in the Paris-Roubaix as well. That was courtesy of Chris Birch. Good to hear, by the way, that all of you are enjoying this so much. It has been a phenomenally brutal day. It's a phrase we use a lot, but today is a case in point. And just look at Peter Sagan. He almost looks like the 24-year-old he is right now. Suddenly in elevated company. Well, he's a great rider. Some say this may well be even named his era. Well, today's the sort of day where he's got to take it, and he knows that. The pressure is clearly bearing down upon him. His teammates are back here, and they're trying to get to him, and they can't. And he needs them, Sean.
Yes, well, he needs them, but if they are back here, I think it's because they're just not in the good enough shape. They haven't got the the power to be up there, and unfortunately, you know, it's getting very messy here, as we can see. Riders starting to look at each other, and the way they're riding up front with 13 riders, 34 seconds at the moment. Difficult to see them pulling back this group of big favourites, as we can see here. The two surprise men, I suppose, let's call them. Well, Borge Lukemans from the Wanty group is also here. He's also, you know, quite a good performer on this style of race. And Minard from AG2R.
It is Minard, right. Well, there we are. We were saying about the old 1-2, and there goes these debates. This is Belkin.
Er alle belang bij dat het door blijft gaan. Hè. Ook wij natuurlijk, maar wij zijn niet degene die op moeten rijden.
Well, it's about Zep van Mark for them. We've got a minor separation, but it will be as nothing. They'll just come round here amongst this talented group that we are facing right now. 31 kilometres to go, and they've got 30 seconds, Sean, and you just feel that they've got so much power on board here. It's exactly the men we need to have up front, and why not just roll the dice once more? And Van Avermaet says, you know what, I've just about had enough of all of this. He's riding the missile. Well, he is one, and off he goes. In the tuck position. So is Sagan, trying to get some free time, free energy, I guess. If you're good at this kind of thing, then great. If you're not, then it's just going to make you sing alto later on, especially if you become a cropper. So a brief relaxation, I think you might say, but only for those who are confident with their bike handling skills. And Sagan has a pace about him, even though he's not pedaling, which he clearly couldn't do in that position without damaging himself. 24 seconds is now the gap. They're saving themselves, Sean, because they know what's still to come.
Well, I think still with 30 kilometres to go, a lot of the riders are thinking just, you know, keep cool for as long as possible. Spare energy as much as possible, but of course there is riders going to go in the attack, and we see Van Avermaet, Greg Van Avermaet, who went in the attack there from the BMC Racing. He realises that yes, there's rivalry here between some of the teams, and certainly between Cancellara, but with Omega Pharma Quick-Step having a number of riders here, Giant Shimano also with 2 riders up here, they're going to try and, you know, keep this one together. Hopefully it'll come down to a sprint, so he is, you know, going to try and go in the attack, and I think Van Avermaet, it's a good one to, you know, have a go here and try and get out of this group of 13 riders.
Is this Van Kiersbroek from Omega Pharma Quick-Step just up the road with Van Avermaet? Can he pose another surprise to his own teammates? Look at Sagan. Come on, somebody do this. And the more he does this, what he's trying to do is back these guys into his teammates, and they're going to realise, they're going to get wise to it, and that's what's happening right now. They're going to roll away from him. Sagan looks tuckered out. Is he kidding? Wow, lots of checks over shoulders going on at the moment. Tom Bonin has a dirty, great big look, saying, come on, Cancellara, do it. The 3 principles today, and this is bound to happen, Sean. They're bound to go for it and leave these guys behind.
Yes, well, I think the riders that are going in the attack here, we see Sebastian Minard from AG2R, Borge Lukemans from the Wanty group. They have seen that there's rivalry between, you know, the big teams here, the big favourites, and they're going to try and, you know, get out here and get across to that group of Greg Van Avermaet and Stein Vandenberg.
Wow. Well, Sagan causing this to a certain extent because he's not doing his turn and nobody wants to give him a free ride, so they're backing up. Wow. Nicky Sorensen just pacing himself nicely. Tinkoff Saxo, incidentally, the major casualties of a big pile-up earlier on, and Nicky Sorensen doing a super job of just getting himself back in business. Kreuzberg or the Hotond, depending on where you're from. 5% maxing out at 9, and we are about to make our turn, and then guess what? Eau de Clermont and Paterberg, anybody? Thank you very much. Or no thank you very much if you don't fancy it. 28.6 to go, and these guys clearly do fancy it, but they are wondering how they're going to deal with this. So is Sagan. He needs a teammate. Boy, did he's never needed one more than this. A man who likes to ride himself to his own strategy and is not afraid to burn his teammates, and maybe he just did a bit too much of that earlier on today. I'm not quite sure. Great work by Nicky Sorensen to try and get onto the back of these boys, but right now Degenkolb is getting himself a free ride courtesy of Peter Sagan, who's being forced to ride on, and these are the danger men that are making him do it, Sean.
Well, he's got to do it because it's getting away from out front with, you know, 4 men out front, but the 2 leaders, they are certainly the danger ones, Greg Van Avermaet and the Omega Pharma Quick-Step rider. Sagan has to push on here and really put the others under pressure and try and split this group of big favourites.
Edvald Bosenhagen is there, and this is Degenkolb also just suffering. His teammate, Dries de Weyens, had been up front, softened everybody up, but looks like he may well have softened up Big John as well. If Big John can get over this in the next couple of climbs, but this might well be curtains. Is he going backwards? Well, he's spinning a high cadence. Meanwhile, out front, these guys are grinding out a superb advantage. Van der Berg and Van Avermaet. Can GBA, or will it be GBB that does the GBH? 27.6 to go. 23 seconds the gap. That's sounding like a big one, Sean.
Yes, it is starting to go out. And again, after the climb, I think there's going to be a little bit of downtime as we see Sagan just pulls over here. Cancellara just takes it up and wants to push on, and they've got to do it because this gets advantage of 20 seconds at the moment. If they start to play about here and start looking at each other, well, then that will go out to 30-40 seconds very quickly. And the problem is it's Cancellara, Sagan, they have to do something here because Omega Pharma Quick-Step, they have a man out front, but maybe it's not the right man, but it looks like Bowen is starting to suffer here, starting to pull a face here, but...
and it looks real. It looks real. Bonin with thumb troubles, don't forget, picked up on the E3. Said he's been riding in pain just about ever since. You can get a body shock. Even the great Marx himself said after one particular crash deep in his career, he never rode comfortable ever again. Oh my goodness, this is Belkin. Is it Van Mark? Out front, just checking on Greg Van Avermaet and Van den Berg, and they ride, and it's a distance, 18 seconds only. To my mind, at the moment, the most dangerous man who could get just the most fabulous, beautiful win of his career is Edvald Bosenhagen. He's looking pacey. You want pace? Here comes John Degenkolb now. He's back on, but he's still got some big climbing tests to come. He needs to find a way of getting over them. He needs to get some recovery. Can he get enough, Sean?
In het wiel blijven, hè. In het wiel blijven, hè.
I think so.
Hij gaat niet meer lossen, hè. Janne beginnen nerveus te worden. Ideale situatie voor van achter.
What do you reckon?
Well, stay in wheel. Omega Pharma Quick-Step, given the orders, just stay in wheel. The other ones will get nervous. The ideal position.
Well, there we go. Zet van Mark lights it and just kicks off. It wasn't him that we saw a moment ago, trying to just close in and stay with right now. Degenkolb, incidentally, is making a good fist of this, but I think he may well just be running out of options. We'll see when it comes to the last couple of climbs. Cancellara it is that goes over, and now it's Bosenhagen that's just starting to roll a little bit shoulder-wise towards the back. He's in good company. Tom Bonin is also there and can't quite just pick it up for now. They still have 2 options, Team Giant Shimano, with Dries de Weyens and John Degenkolb, but I think the next 2 climbs are going to find them out. We're going to see. Out of the saddle is Greg Van Avermaet. Well, we said he was a long-range missile, but look at the faces. Cancellara looks reasonably comfortable, but he's a great poker player. Everyone else here, including Sepp van Mark, who not many people's radar he was on. Last drinks as well at 26 for Sagan. Nobody's going to object to that on a tough day. And again, Sepp van Mark tries to counter-punch and go to the other side of the road and drifts over. He's snaking all over the place. Has he hidden well? He's not been the main suspect, and as a result, he hasn't been under investigation by the other teams. this could go well for him.
Yes, well, Van Mark has to make the reaction here, as we can see. Terpstra is the one who wants to push on here, with Berg Lukemans also in tow as he takes up the pull on the front at the moment. And it's really tactics now. They're just playing about who's going to do the chasing, and the advantage out front, 25 seconds at the moment, so it is pulling out all the time for our two leaders.
25.6 to go, 25 seconds is that gap. There's going to be a little bit of disengagement and then a reforming of the battle lines, but 25 seconds to go. Well, we said it was a long-range missile, Van Avermaet, and this could be outstanding. With Van den Berg, though, also in attendance, Stein also involved. 26 seconds. Sorry, just doing a double check on the gap between G2 and the pack, and it looks like this is where our winner's going to come from, Sean.
Well, I think that's certainly where it's going to come from, but are they going to, play about so much that this group will, the two-man breakaway is going to pull out enough of an advantage to get over the final two climbs? But at the moment, around the 30 seconds going out to that, if somebody is really good on the outer Quaremont, you can just eat up that advantage very quickly. Cancellara looks comfortable there. He's just closing down some of the Royals who go on the attack, but again, he is the marked man, and the problem is for Cancellara, he's the lone one from Trek Factory Racing, and that is the same situation for Sagan, so it's going to be a difficult one tactically. Now they have to calculate it very well.
Oh, motorcycle just taking a big kick from that little drainage ditch that they went to on this transition. We're climbing again. Keeps coming, Sean. It's Leukemans who is the chaser. Wanty Group Gobert, they have been punching above their weight for some time this season. It's nice to see them involved in this one.
Yes, nice to see them involved, and I think we see Lukemans there. He's just always trying to get away in the group, or just away on his own, as he's doing at the moment. He knows that he goes to the final climb of the Quaremont and the Patersberg. He's not going to be capable of staying with the other big favourites, so he's just doing everything to try and get away, and at the moment he is succeeding. But the problem is the two out front, that advantage of around the 30 seconds, it's going to be difficult to close that down.
Oh, and here we go. It's all kicking off. Rolling into aggression, Sebastian Minard, probably not the immediate pick you might have thought from 82 on the Mondial. Chanel Godin and Turgot have all been involved today, and look at this, straight. Dries de Wiens also goes for Giant Shimano in with the double white stripe up the other side of the road. Where is Degenkolb, and can he possibly pick it up? There he is, Sagan at the back, and maybe biding his time. Adrian Green saying Sagan paying the price for burning his teammates out early on and just decleating, as you saw there momentarily. John Degenkolb struggling, Sean, is just not comfortable on the bike at the moment.
Well, I think when you're really suffering, and Degenkolb, we have seen he's been in the red already, and when you get that, still with over 20 kilometers to go, it's going to be real difficult for him to hang on there, and that's what he's going to try and do. Although we did see him, trying to get away in a smaller group, and that tells me he's realised also that if he stay here in this group, he's going to have difficulty holding it on the Quaremont and the Patersberg, and there's a lot of riders thinking the same.
Peter Sagan has been forced to do some duty on the front, and he didn't like it one little bit. He also didn't like getting beaten last year. Fabian Cancellara is the man to do it, and Cancellara, of course, is here with 22.4 to go. 26 seconds now is the gap. There's a lot of talent all locked together. This is where your winner is going to come from. Sean, do you want to pick one? At last. Will we allow ourselves?
I think it's a really difficult one to pick here. Out front, you know, the advantage would be Van Avermaet. I think the rider from Omega Pharma Quick Step, Stein Vandenberg, he's going to be in difficulty on the final 2 climbs. But again, he's getting a free toe here. He's not contributing at all or very little. And it's Greg Van Avermaet who is just doing all the pushing on here. We did see Vandenberg, he was in difficulty already when there was a real big push on some of the previous climbs. He lost a little bit of ground, but Quick Step seems to be you know, wanting to play that card at the moment.
21.6 there. Finally we get the G3, the secondary pursuers, 47 seconds. 26 back are the group that contains Peter Sagan, Cancellara, Bonin, and they've got some work to do. Or is it in fact back to this? 48 seconds it is. It's back all the way. This is Leukemans, beg your pardon. This is Leukemans, the intermediate rider. So that gap is growing, Sean, and they're going to have to take care that it doesn't get silly. And by silly, I mean minute and a half, that kind of thing within short order.
Yes, well, when you look at the Outer Coromont, I think it's going to be the launching pad now. And the riders back in that group of favourites, the ones who are feeling good, like Cancellara, he's going to be hoping, possibly Sagan, that the gap is not going to go out too much any more than 30 seconds, but that is controllable. On the Coromont you can actually close down that sort of an advantage, and then you have the path as well. But as we can see here, you know, nobody really pushing on big time in this group of favourites as they're coming back, as they're being joined by this group at the moment.
They are, and so they're backing into help for Sagan here. And, well, if that works well for Sagan, the others will rue this decision not to push on. And indeed, particularly Omega Pharma Quickstep. I know they got Stein Vandenberg in a good position, but they really could have done with nullifying Peter Sagan, surely. And he's got the cavalry coming now, Sean.
Yes, I think, you know, they probably should have continued on riding a bit more, you know, just got involved. Omega Pharma Quickstep, they have you know, 3 riders in this group, which is about to be pulled back, and with another rider, Vandenberg, up the road with Greg Van Avermaet. So if they had ridden a bit for a while and eliminate this big group coming across, well, then they would be in a real strong situation. But now there is help arriving for Sagan, possibly Cancellara. He can have some teammates as well who are in this group joining up.
Luca Paolini with his great beard, beautifully trimmed, and taking that corner equally as brilliantly. And here come the chasers, and you'll note it's Sagan has help now, but there's some others that are entering the mix of contention, Sean.
Yes, and we can see the advantage is growing out. Just holding 24 seconds at the moment, and immediately we must do something. Cannondale giving the orders to the riders. We have to do it immediately.
One for all, absolutely, and all for one, and that one is Peter Sagan. Well, we said the cavalry are coming. They've absolutely spent themselves to get back on, Sean. They're going to need a bit of a break without an ear bashing before they take up their duties of sacrificing themselves on behalf of Sagan. Meanwhile, these guys are up the road.
Yes, I think the problem is we're getting to the point now inside the 20 kilometres to go as we go on to the Coromont for the final time. As we've been hearing orders from Director Sportif, you know, immediately it has to be done, and but unfortunately the riders had to make the effort to get back into that group of Sagan, so they're probably looking for a little bit of breather time, but getting orders immediately to try and get to the front and push on and limit the advantage to the 2 leaders out in front.
It's 58 seconds back to this group, which contains Peter Sagan. It also contains Bonin, Edvald Bosenhagen, and of course Fabian Cancellara. Sepp van Mark tried his luck as well. It hasn't really worked out for him. Goodness me, you can see the struggle on the faces of the Cannondale riders, just looking deep back into the bunch here, and they really have sacrificed themselves. One man who hasn't overly at the moment, you're looking at the back end of him now, Stein Van den Berg. He's had, as you said, a free ride, Sean, and Greg Van Avermaet, the long-range missile, is doing a great job right now. Can they possibly make it all the way? I think it's still a very tall order with the climbs that remain, Sean.
Yes, now with this group growing to be quite a big chasing group, that is going to be difficult then for the two out in front. And as we've seen, it's Greg Van Avermaet who is doing the big share of the working. Stijn van den Berg taking it up a little bit when it's on the downhill. We seem to be going to the front, and I think that is going to be the tactic of Omega Pharma Quickstep, because Van den Berg is they're probably a little bit concerned about Van den Berg being able to hold on here with Greg Van Avermaet over the final two climbs. This one, the Oude Kwaremont, and more so the final one of the day, the Patersberg.
You know, we are ahead of time today. They have really put an awful lot into this, and we are approaching our final climb sequence, I should say, the final double, the Oude Kwaremont and the Patersberg. Now, the Kwaremont is right now, and the Patersberg is the last with 13.3 kilometers to go from the line. And you look deep down, and Loikemans is doing a fantastic job. A very good job indeed. 23 seconds now. He just has to make up 39 back to the group with all of the favourites in, let's not forget. Could possibly Greg Van Avermaet go all the way here? This is remarkable. And he's got the crown of the road where he wants to be. And here come everybody else. And here comes Sagan, just keeping an eye on Cancellara. Directly behind him is Edvald Boasson-Hagen, wrestling, rocking and rolling, and they're having to fight to get into position. The teammates trying to keep Omega Pharma Quickstep's dream alive. Bradley Wiggins also very much part of this group. Somebody asking after him on Twitter a few moments ago. And the charge is on. It's being led at the moment by Paolini, who's doing a fantastic job. Notably, he is by default working for Sagan, and there's Cancellara. Now, will Cancellara be able to just stretch his legs and leave behind? And there, already being left behind, it seems, Tom Bonen. And also just coming up under your screen there, dropping out of the screen, is Geraint Thomas. And here is the push, and he's decided to light up. The afterburners are on, and I think he's done for Sagan. Sagan played a game, and it wasn't one he was adept at. Not this day. Oh, you want power, you want skill, you want poise, determination, strategy, everything rolled into one. You're looking at it right now. It's Fabian Cancellara. Unfortunately for him, he's got a very, very able passenger with him right now. Sepp Van Mark is on his case.
Yes, Van Mark very much on the wheel of Cancellara, but yeah, it's the moment you have to take it up now, and Cancellara very impressive there when he goes on the attack. We could see Christoph there setting the pace on the front, but Cancellara just rides away from him, and it will be interesting to see, will Sepp Van Mark contribute a bit here, but the advantage, as we can see, it's coming down so quickly, and it looks like that it's going to be difficult for our two leaders to hold out there, with Cancellara coming up very quickly.
Well, Paris-Roubaix springs to mind with Cancellara and Sepp Van Mark. They came into the velodrome, and Van Mark, the trackman formerly, it didn't happen for him. Some idiot just throwing something there momentarily at Greg Van Avermaet. But it's Van Mark and Cancellara that are in pursuit right now, and this is a bridgeable gap with 16.6 to go. This is power. Oh, and look at the response. There is Sagan. He's got no other choice, Sean. He just has to go for it. Forget about the cavalry who rode over to him. They're not strong enough.
No, well, he has to react immediately, because if he just, holds on here and expects somebody else to take up the chase, well, then it's going to be too late. And I'm concerned that is already too late, because Cancellara, the way he's, going at the moment, and possibly Van Mark, when they get off this cobble section, Van Mark will contribute with Cancellara a bit to make sure that they do hold out and go on to the final climb of the day, the Patersberg, with enough of an advantage to hold off that group of Peter Sagan.
The Oude Kwaremont was the launch pad, but not the penultimate time, the final time up the Oude Kwaremont. A little bit of a hexagon corner there, hardly surprising after the efforts that Cancellara's just put in. Gladly takes a drink that's handed out to him. And here comes Peter Sagan. It's not that that much of a gap, but Sagan has to go for it right now. He takes a drink himself, and he'll throw this away straight away. Those further down the order just getting themselves into a little bit of a bother. That's Pichot, who just remounts. 16.2 to go. One more climb to come. It's the Paterberg.
Yes, and we could see Sagan there. Looked like he was in real difficulty to keep the pace up, as we could. Van Avermaet here going in the attack and trying to get rid of Vandenberg before he gets to the final climb of the day, the Patersberg. And we can see Vandenberg is real difficulty here just to hold on. But when you start doing that, when you start attacking, it's difficult, you know, to hold on. And we can see the group of Cancellara is coming up very quickly.
Very quickly indeed, so no choice for Greg Van Avermaet of BMC in the red and black. Could it be a phenomenal long range? It doesn't look like it. Look at this. These two know each other very well. Sepp van Mark and Fabian Cancellara came into the velodrome on the Paris-Roubaix last year, locked together. Sepp van Mark was the big surprise that day. Nobody's surprised to see this now. Top 5 finishes in the Kern, Brussels Kern, the E3, and again Vavelgem. Cancellara on fantastic form as well. Defending champion, don't forget Cancellara. Where's number 1? Out of right. And right now, further behind, this looks like a group of lost souls, because there's only one more climb to come, and then it is highway, and these guys can put in the pace when they need to, particularly Cancellara.
Yes, and I think Van Avermaet will be made aware that Cancellara is on the way up. He's trying to, you know, keep the pace as high as possible, push on and get on to the final climb of the day, the Patersberg, with a little advantage, and that way, if there is a big battle here between the two chasers, and certainly Cancellara is going to try to really put everybody, certainly Van Mark is going to try and get rid of, because if it comes down to a sprint, he's going to be concerned with that. And Van Avermaet knows out front, if he can go on to the Patersberg with, 10-15 seconds of advantage, he can make it over before the other two chasers come up.
14.9 to go, 12 seconds the gap. The last climb, the Paterberg, 13.3, so they're approaching it right now, and here comes Sagan along with Luca Paolini and indeed Edvald Boasson-Hagen. Don't count Eddie Boss out if he can make this, if this can all be brought back together. Goodness me, we could have one heck of a high-speed shootout to finish off what has been an amazing Tour of Flanders. What a terrific race it's been this year, Sean. Everyone is completely different, but this has been special.
Yeah, well, it's been a real exciting race. We have a real aggressive race right from the beginning, and as we mentioned, the earlier part of our program, very fast racing over the first 2 hours. Then the break, imagine, to get away after about 40-45 kilometers into the event, and then we had so many crashes, so many mechanical problems. That really upset the race, made everybody nervous, and that was the cause of more crashes, as we can see. Our two leaders just going to go on to the Patersberg.
Well, they make the turn right now. Here's the cobbles, the last of the cobble climbs that they've got to deal with, and they have to attack. They've got no choice whatsoever, because behind them is a man who's bidding for his third victory. He's going to hove into sight before you know it. They all wave at him, but he's not waving back. No, he's not wavering either. He's on full charge right now. Fabian Cancellara digs in. Sepp van Mark, can he make or take revenge for being beaten at the Paris-Roubaix last time by? Well, we're going to find out. The Belkin man is there, but so are the chasers. This is amazing.
Well, Omega Pharma Quickstep have to take it up here, because with Cancellara out front, with Sepp van Mark, they feel that their man up front, Stein Vandenberg, is going to have difficulty winning this one, or maybe getting on the podium, so they've decided to push on, but it's going to be difficult for them to continue on doing this, because this chasing group behind our two leaders and our two chasers, the bigger group containing Terpstra, Bonen, Stuyber, that is going to explode totally on this final climb.
Van Avermaet takes the final crest right now. It'll be a great relief to him, but this will not be. There is Sepp van Mark, but significantly the man who wears number 1, Fabian Cancellara, and they're just about to absorb a very brave Van den Berg. There he is. They may go either side of him right now. 13.2 to go. Van Mark drives on a little bit, takes the inside line. There is Sagan, a huge line of spittle ejects from his mouth. I think that might be a spit of disgust. The crowd getting involved here as Cancellara sails by, and Van Mark is doing to him what he did to him the other year, last year in the Paris-Roubaix. And they roll on, but so does this man, Greg Van Avermaet. Can he? Possibly. Will he? 10 seconds is all he's got. I don't think he can, Sean.
Well, it's looking difficult, but again, Cancellara has got Van Mark to deal with, and if Van Mark doesn't contribute well here, well then Cancellara will start playing about, and Van den Berg, he's going to just sit tight here and try and get to the finish. So he's going to be maybe the danger man, because he has to attack. But again, we have to see that group of chasers. Sagan in real difficulty on the final 50 metres of the Patersburg. But we can see it was actually the Omega Pharma Quick Step who are taking up the chase. Will they be able to continue on doing that?
We're going to find out. 8 seconds only the gap, 12.1 to go. Don't forget the highway opens up. We're onto tarmac right now. It's a smooth surface. Finally some respite and indeed some relief, and the man who's going to take most out of this, I think, is Stijn van den Berg. Let's not forget there's still one man up the road, Greg Van Avermaet from BMC in the black and red, and Cancellara is angry here and says, come on, do something. Well, he tried to do the obvious. There you go, 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 go. Don't hang around for this, guys. That was the message. You hear that? He tried to hand over a bit of energy on the descent there, Cancellara, as if to say, I'm here, I'm not coming through, but here, have some pace. It was all a reminder that there's going to be some work here from Sepp van Mark, and Cancellara doesn't want to take it, and it looks like the chase is just lining up again. It's not Bozenhagen, and it's not Sagan. He looks spent.
Yes, and I think we can see the orders there from Dirk de Mol, from the Trek racing team. Just keep going. Concerned that this chasing group is going to come back. They have to keep on riding here. But again, Cancellara, he's using the tactic. Just start shouting at the other guys, try and make them nervous. Hoping you will make them nervous and get Van Mark to ride as much as Cancellara is doing himself.
And look, the big danger man is here as well, John Degenkolb. Oh my goodness, we have so many at hand, so many options, and Cancellara now knows this, and now he's asking for help rather than demanding it. They have got Greg Van Avermaet, and that'll be heartbreak for him. Van Mark sails into the lead, now happy to do some work, knowing that this quartet could be where the action comes from. 10.6 to go. I guess, Sean, look, he's not happy at all, Sepp van Mark, and relays back on, but unfortunately it's only onto the back of Van den Berg, and he doesn't like being bullied at all by Cancellara, and they could throw this away. And emerging is Luca Paolini, the bearded figure who's been almost anonymously winding in this quartet now, as it is. The Katusha man is on the road, and well, he's helped Christoph in the past, and looks like he may well be helping himself right now. Oh, guess what? It's Christoph himself. Sorry for the distance and the mistake, but here is Christoph. He's got power. He's got the Milan San Remo. Has he got the energy to deliver? He has, but can he?
Difficult to see him making it across, unless out front the four leaders start to really play about, and they are working well. Van Avermaet, Van Mark and Cancellara are pulling well together.
I would absolutely love it if Alexander Christoph does it in rain and does it in shine, well, at least the dry. They said it was all down to the conditions when it came to the Milan San Remo. Well, it's a pleasant place to be on a bike on a day such as this.
Niet exact de tijd, maar het is uit elkaar van achteren. Kom bij zorg dat je even nog door blijft rijden. Kom op.
Basically, don't be bullied and do your own thing.
Yes, just continue on riding a bit. It's totally blown apart behind, and we can see there that Christoph is closer. I thought he was a bit further off. You know, he's only maybe 8-10 seconds off the group, and he is in real difficulty here in no man's land at this point with 250 kilometers covered already. You know, the legs are going to be just screaming, and to bridge it across a gap with 3 riders contributing up front to the pace setting. If Christoph can do this one, it will be chapeau.
When Sepp van Mark got beaten on the velodrome, let's not forget the Paris-Roubaix, everyone expected him to win. I was hoping, but it didn't quite happen. Fabian Cancellara, a man who garners huge admiration constantly, of course, is here. Beat him on that day. Van Mark probably entered the velodrome as favourite, being a man of a track heritage, but he got beaten by the wile and guile of Cancellara, and he does not want that to happen again, and he won't be bullied here, Sean. He's going to ride his own race.
Certainly not. He's been up there before in the final of a classic, and but he knows that he has to contribute here, because if he doesn't contribute, well, then Cancellara will just totally stop riding and everybody will lose. So he knows that if he can just continue on riding, then he's in with a chance of, taking a victory, winning this Tour of Flanders. As Van Avermaet also, he is, working quite well. And we can see Christoph here just really suffering. But the interesting one is that also we see Terpstra there riding very strongly. He should be just catching up with Christoph very quickly. And has he got enough to get across this advantage? If he has, it will be a magnificent ride.
It will be amazing, but 8 seconds has suddenly turned into 20, and I think it's done for Christoph, unfortunately. It looks like it's going to be this quartet. 8.4 kilometers to go, 21 seconds. It's still going backwards, I'm afraid, Christoph, and he's about to get caught. And it's Nicky Terpstra, great time trialist he is. He needs to do something for himself here. They tried to work for Tom Bonen, tried to make it in the Magic Four. Nobody's ever done that. He's on a very select group of those who've won 3 times, and Fabian Cancellara might be just about to join that select group. There he is in the black with his white sleeve singlet. We're in the green. We have Sepp van Mark. For Omega Pharma Quickstep at the back here with the white sash across his back is Stijn van der Berg, and in the black and red it's Greg van Avermaet. And we give you those those colours because it's likely to be a 4-horse race unless Nicky Terpstra can do an absolute miracle and get back on. But with 26 seconds and 7.8 to go, and 4 men who are going to realise that they have a better chance if they work together, the odds will work for Sepp van Mark and Fabian Cancellara. Surely it has to be between those two, wouldn't you say, Sean? And so 50-50, better odds than if you let somebody get back on here.
Well, I don't think they're going to allow anybody to get back on, and of course Vandenberg, he's contributing nothing. He hasn't been contributing with Greg van Avermaet earlier on, and he's certainly not going to do it now. And he's going to be made aware that Terpstra is chasing, and he's just going to follow, and he just has to try and attack and create a surprise in the final kilometre. But it looks like that he is pretty much totally out of power. So it's going to be down between the Cancellara, Van Mark and Van Avermaet. But Van Avermaet is also quite a good finisher, but he looks to be also starting to tire a lot, and it's all about who has got that little bit more energy left in the sprint.
It's all about that. 7.1 to go, 29 seconds they have, and it's going to be from this quartet. Well, the climbs really did sort out. It had to be the last round between the Clermont and the Paterberg. That was the launch pad. That's when just the cadence was changed. But Fabian Cancellara found something else. It was just a change of pace, and he drifted off, and he wasn't to be caught, Sean.
No, well, we've seen him do that so many times in the past, and when he's on form, Cancellara, the power he can just turn out on the cobbles, and we see that the way he went away from Peter Sagan in the difficult section. Sagan wasn't able to react, and then he tried on the easier part. But when you give Cancellara 10-15 bike lengths, it's just impossible to close him down in the end of a long race.
6.4 to go. Time for a gel. Quite often you get this, and it's riders just saying, look how relaxed I am. I've even got time to just stop for a snack. He may well be absolutely in need of this, but he's in no hurry to squeeze it into his mouth. There's a lot of kilology goes on at moments like this. I remember you, Sean, used to pretend to drink from an empty bottle when you knew everyone else was thirsting around you, just to sort of play the mind games. Is that what's going on right now?
Well, it's surprising to see him taking a gel just under 6 kilometres to go. Normally you would take it a little bit earlier, but yeah, Cancellara seems to want to do that. But I don't think it's, to play mind games. He just feels like that, probably safer to do it, and he took very little. We did see that he just took it, the least amount of it, and through to the roadside. But you can see they're starting to play here, and they're trying to get Van den Berg to contribute a bit. He did take a little bit on the front there for a very short period.
Well, I think we just passed the 5k to go banner. It's just slightly out of position. The GPS has been working very well for us today. Van den Berg at the back in the green just relays back on. They're sort of team time trialing at the moment, albeit in a slightly ragged manner, and Greg Van Avermaet just drifts off. They need to stay on board. You see how much effort it takes. That's the pace they're still travelling at. It's been fast today, Sean.
Yes, it's been a real fast race, and it's been aggressive all day, a very nervous race, and that creates a very fast race because of the nervousness in the peloton. And we did see the answer to that. There was quite a lot of crashes, and looking at the time at the moment, it's going to be quite a fast race right through.
Steinberg at the back. He's been a passenger for a lot of the day. Greg Van Avermaet, there he is, just says, come on, do your turn, and has a look in the face of Fabian Cancellara, who for the first time really is gone open-mouthed. And what's going through his mind at the moment? Just not reaching out and grabbing for it, but just to finesse the victory. That's what, but how to do it in this company, Sean?
Well, I think he's going to be hoping that the other riders continue on contributing here, and I think they will, because they all have an interest here to hold off the chasers and go on to contest for the victory. Will they go all the way and just have a straight out sprint at the end? That we'll have to wait and see.
I'm beginning to wonder if Stein van den Berg might be a bit of a danger here. He's been a passenger for much of the day. I'm not suggesting it's been kidology, but he's long of limb, and he can spin out a good one, but he's going to need the jump on these guys. Cancellara can sprint. Van Mark likewise. Van Avermaet, I think, might well be the big loser after putting in so much effort today, but it's all speculation, and picking it up right now and going long is exactly that. Stein van den Berg decides to have a go. He digs for the first time for a long time. Will he find gold? Greg Van Avermaet goes after him, and Cancellara and Van Mark are the boys that have been distanced very, very momentarily. Mouth agape. He's drinking it in at the moment, Stein van den Berg, just sucking it all up, the pain that is, and staying with him is Greg Van Avermaet. He's got to do this. He's got no choice.
No, he has to try and do something, and if there's a little bit of rivalry between the two big favourites, I suppose. We have them here on our screen at the moment, Van Mark and Cancellara, but surprising that Cancellara's not closing down this one a bit quicker. He's going to make Van der Mark also do his share of work.
And Van Mark decides to attack. Cancellara is equal to this, but he's going to make the bridge himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he shoots straight by. 2.6 to go. Van Avermaet flicks his arm out and has a look at Stein van den Berg and says, how much have you got? Because if you've got anything, you better use it now, because otherwise you're going to get eaten up. And it's going to be Van Mark and Cancellara, the boys that shared the spoils on the Paris-Roubaix. Are they going to do it here at Flanders? It looks like it. Van Mark is angry. He's livid. Cancellara less so, but wily. And it's Van Avermaet who goes for it on the counter as soon as those guys arrive. He doesn't want to let them have any respite. Doesn't want them to settle into a rhythm. 2.1 kilometres to go, and here goes. Oh, it's the big dig from Cancellara, and I don't think this one's going to end, is it? Oh, and it does almost immediately. Van Mark shakes his head in the green there, and it looks like he's smiling. I don't know whether he's grimacing or laughing, or indeed it's just pain. Oh, think this one out. It's like a Rubik's Cube at the moment, and right now all the colours are mixed.
Yes, and with Van Avermaet and Van den Berg out front, it looked like that Cancellara was in difficulty, but is he doing that just to bluff it a bit? Because immediately we see Seb Van Mark taking it up, and of course he is going to, you know, get his orders from the team director back in Care, who also got, you know, direct on TV. But it's going to be a real cat and mouse here as we go to the final kilometre.
Oh, Van Mark just picks up a little bit of pace in response to Cancellara, who just tries to alter the cadence, and it's how he drops Sagan further back. We're not going to have that battle. Tom Bonen, likewise, is not going to get the Magic 4, not this year anyway. He's had all kinds of personal tragedy, as I'm sure you know, and injuries to deal with. And we've got cat and mouse going on right now. And just look at the gap, 24 seconds. It may well be that that's narrowing. Flamme Rouge beckons, 1 kilometre to go, and the line is straight ahead, and we're going to wait for them. Wait for what, though? Who? When and how? The questions we've been asking all day, and it's the man who's longer flame who goes to the barriers, and Van den Berg has gone for this one. First to reach out, Van Avermaet for BMC in the black and red responds. Van Mark likewise, and Cancellara, is he going to be left behind on a train, a 3-man train here? He's going to have to put a lot of effort in to get back to it, and suddenly they just run out of steam and drift and waver across the road. The meter markers are coming up. It's 300 to go. 300 now, and still we don't know. The answer beckons, and after 6¼ hours of racing on the most brutal terrain, and Nicky Terpstra just homing into sight, dragging along as he does one of the Katusha riders. Christophe Dreams buried, I think, and it's going to be between these guys, and still they roll 300 metres and still nobody reaches out. This is absolutely remarkable. Van Avermaet, it's like a track race. Who's going to go? It's going to be Van Mark, surely. He staggers, he stalls, he tries to draw somebody else out. He doesn't want to give his wheel to Cancellara, and Cancellara goes for it. He's been there before. Van Avermaet goes for it for BMC. Cancellara comes through. Cancellara in the black and the white hits the line, and it's going to be Fabian Cancellara. Oh, one of the greatest wins of his career. It's 3 now for him, and back-to-back wins as well after last year. A remarkable performance by a man who is the chief strategist. He had #1 on his back, and that's how he's finished today. Unbelievable racing. Terpstra crosses the line. We've had just about everything today. Still not over. Not over for Bonen anyway. Listen to the cheers from the crowd. He drifts away. Well, Thomas was supposed to be a feature. Not on the podium. Likewise, that man. It was a quartet that reached out in the end, and Fabian Cancellara has done it once more. You want to know how hungry he is? He's still feasting, this man. What a performance, Sean.
Yes, what a performance, and it looked like a number of kilometres out that he was starting to suffer a bit, but I think he was just playing that the bluff, and I think that went back to the other team directors, and then it was forward run to the riders, and you know, Van Mark, he did a big effort to close down when we had Van Avermaet and Stein van den Berg just out front. He was the one who made the big efforts, but in the sprint, Cancellara still had a lot of power there.
He had an awful lot of power. He's an amazing athlete. Here he is at the back at the moment, waiting to launch. Van Mark must just have Cancellara in his nightmares constantly. He didn't want to lead him out, and in the end, Cancellara, when he did reach for it, it was Van Avermaet that went for it, and Van Mark drifted into 3rd place. Van Avermaet going from long distance, but Cancellara caught him and indeed delivered when he needed to. Fabian Cancellara is a 3-time winner of the Tour of Flanders, and all you can say is chapeau.
Le 3e succès aujourd'hui de Fabian Cancellara. Il rentre dans la légende du Tour des Flandres puisqu'il rejoint Johan Museeuw, il rejoint également Tom Bonen.
Never tires of victory. Never stopped believing in himself.
Certainly not, and he joins that elite group of big winners in the Tour of Flanders. 3 times he equals Tom Bourne now, of course. Then there was Johan Museeuw and Le Mans. As we can see here, the joy back in the Trek Factory team car.
Oh, happy boys, happy days. And you get plenty of those with Fabian. Well, you'll excuse the expletive, I'm sure. What a jump. Once he hit the front, there was going to be no denying. Let it fly with just 200 to go and brought it home again. Well, a pacey day, Sean. It's finished at 5 to 5 in the early evening, I guess you could say. Long day in terms of kilometres, but they dealt with it so quickly.
Yes, well, when you get a very aggressive race in the earlier part, the first number of hours which we had today, it just goes on from there, and then you will get quite a fast race, which we had, we had that today. But Cancellara, he was the one who calculated so well, because we must remember Omega Pharma Quickstep had so many riders up there, but if you haven't got the power in the end, it's all about how you're feeling.
Sagan called for the cavalry. They were ordered to respond and did so. They're just cruising across the line right now, but it's all too late. We have our winner. You may have heard of him before. Fabian Cancellara has delivered, and he now joins a very select group of riders who have won this event 3 times. Cancellara beats Van Mark and Van der Berg. Christophe leading home the pack, finishing 5th today. Well, I say Christophe leading home the pack, but in fact it was shattered throughout the line. Sean, this race always takes plenty of prisoners, and it brutalizes ambition.
Well, with such a